Sheikh of today, I would like to give you a brief introduction of our madrasa in the presence of our honorable respected shuyukh. We request our respected shuyukh to remember us, our madrasa, our teachers and students in his noble du'as, and request all brothers to support us by attending and benefiting from these classes. The madrasa was established, alhamdulillah, since 2008 and has provided Islamic education to benefit all ages of the community, from our young generations through to the adults. For our younger generations aged 4 to 16, we have organized Monday to Friday classes from 4:15 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. However, some children cannot attend weekday classes, therefore we have arranged classes on weekends so nobody misses out. Classes on Saturdays and Sundays are from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. for beginnings, aged 4 years and above. We also cater classes of Tajweed with Quran for ladies on Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The Hifz Quran class is also taught 7 days a week. Our Islamic curriculum consists of subjects which are Quran and Aqa'ida, Tajweed, Quran translation, Quran tafsir, Hifz Quran, Hadith, Aqa'id, Adab and Akhlaq, Fiqh, Seerah of the Prophets, Islamic studies and the Urdu language. We also started a food bank project to help and support our Muslims and non-Muslim individuals and families who are going through a difficult time. We deliver food and basic necessities to homes and also cook and serve homemade food to the people on the street. We request all our shuyukh to remember our madrasa in their noble du'as. Now, I would like to begin today's program with a recitation of the Holy Quran by the world famous Qari from Pakistan, Qari Anwar al-Hassan Shah Bukhari.
لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. ولما رأى المؤمنون الأحزاب قالوا هذا ما وعدنا الله ورسوله وصدق الله ورسوله. وصدق الله ورسوله وما زادهم إلا إيمانا وتسليما. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. ولما رأى المؤمنون الأحزاب قالوا هذا ما وعدنا الله ورسوله وصدق الله ورسوله وصدق الله ورسوله وما زادهم إلا إيمانا وتسليما من المؤمنين رجال من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا ليجزي الله الصادقين بصدقهم ليجزي الله الصادقين بصدقهم ويعذب المنافقين إن شاء أو يتوب عليهم إن الله كان غفورا رحيما
ما شاء الله. أحسنت يا شيخ، أحسنت ما شاء الله. جميل ما شاء الله. أحسنت شيخ.
ورد الله الذين كفروا بغيظهم لم ينالوا خيرا وكفى الله المؤمنين القتال وكفى الله المؤمنين القتال الجبال وكان الله قويا عزيزا وأنزل الذين ظاهرهم من أهل الكتاب من صياصيهم وأنزل الذين ظاهرهم من أهل الكتاب من صياصيهم وقذف في قلوبهم الرعب فريقا تقتلون وتأسرون فريقا
الله 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 الله
وأورثكم أرضهم وديارهم وأموالهم وأرضا لم تطئوها وكان الله على كل شيء قديرا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان
الله ما شاء الله تكبير ما شاء الله جميل حلاوة حفظك الله
والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر
أحسنت شيخ أحسنت شيخ أنوار
ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان.
الله بارك الله ما شاء الله.
والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام
أحسنت شيخ
والحب ذو العصف والريحان والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
أحسنت شيخ أحسنت قراءتك جيد ما شاء الله شيخ أنوار.
خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. الإيمان صدق الله العظيم.
Sheikh Anwar Hasaan Zindabad.
MashaAllah, this was our respected Qari Anwar al-Hassan Shah Bukhari. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our first respected Sheikh Rafiq Sufi Hafidullah. Sheikh Rafiq Sufi Hafidullah was born in England and has gained licenses to teach ijazas in many Islamic sciences including Quran, fiqh and traditions of the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from various scholars. He studied and graduated in 1992 in one of the most recognized Islamic institutions in England, Darul Ulum al-Arabiya al-Islamiyya. As well as becoming an alim, he also memorized the Quran. After graduation, Sheikh took a role of imam in various masjids within the north of England and also for a year in Leicester. His dedication to sacred knowledge of Islam has allowed many to gain a true understanding of Islam, be it through his teaching in many different organizations, his translation of classical Arabic texts, or just his dynamic style of orientation. Although he's currently a teacher of fiqh, hadith and Arabic language in his hometown of Blackburn at Jami'atul Ilm wal Huda, his other devotion is his charity, Muslim Welfare Institute, which brings humanitarian aid to thousands of needy men, women and children from all around the world. Sheikh is also devoted to reaching out to the youth and bringing them the true message of Islam wherever they may be. He has delivered Islamic lectures in universities and mosques all over the United Kingdom, USA, Canada, Albania, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka and Denmark to mention but a few. He is currently the chair of Lancashire Council of Mosques and resides in Blackburn, UK with his wife and 2 children. Now, I would like to invite our respected Sheikh Rafiq Sufi to come forward and enlighten us with his words on the topic, which path will you choose?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wal-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen. Was-salatu was-salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen. سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. وقال عز وجل: سأصرف عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق وإن يروا كل آية لا يؤمنوا بها وإن يروا سبيل الرشد لا يتخذوه سبيلا وإن يروا سبيل الغي يتخذوه سبيلا ذلك بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا وكانوا عنها غافلين. والذين كذبوا بآياتنا ولقاء الآخرة حبطت أعمالهم هل يجزون إلا ما كانوا يعملون. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: كل أمتي يدخلون الجنة إلا من أبى. قيل: ومن يأبى يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم؟ قال: من أطاعني دخل الجنة ومن عصاني فقد أبى، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والتسليم. رواه الإمام البخاري رحمه الله. وعن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه وعن عبد الله بن عمرو بن العاص رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والتسليم. حديث حسن صحيح. وعن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. فقال رجل: إن الرجل يحب أن يكون ثوبه حسنا ونعله حسنا. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: إن الله جميل يحب الجمال. الكبر بطل الحق وغمط الناس، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والتسليم. رواه مسلم رحمهم الله. صدق الله وصدق رسوله النبي الأمي الكريم، ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Respected honorable ulama kiram, respected qurra, respectful a'imma, leaders, elders of our community, colleagues, friends, young children in Islam, honorable mothers and sisters, I would like to greet you with the beautiful and universal greetings of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic of discussion and the theme of today is make the Ummah great. We all have to understand that we are all first and foremost part of the Ummah. Who is not part of the Ummah? Put your hands up. Who is not part of the Ummah? Sorry for the misunderstanding. We're all part of one Ummah. Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the responsibility lies on each and every individual of this Ummah to the best of their ability and to the best of their capacity. Everyone has a role to play. Everyone can be a contributor for the betterment of the Ummah. Everyone can be from that person, can be that group and that individual who can make the Ummah great again. Say Inshallah. Who has the zeal and the passion? Put your hands up, Inshallah. Who's going to make a difference, Inshallah? Come on. Inshallah. Whether it be verbally, whether it be physically, whether it be monetarily, whether it be at least in our du'as and spirituality. In whichever form or shape, we can be a contribution for the betterment of the Ummah. We need to present ourselves. Yes or no? Such an important topic. A discussion which should be taking place every single day of our lives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the best reward and jaza' khair to all those institutions, all those Islamic and Dini activities which are day in and day out reminding us of our responsibilities. Whether it be in the form of Jama'at Tabligh, Da'wah wa Tabligh, whether it be in the form of Jamia Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala, whether it be in the form of a masjid, of a madrasa, of a markaz, of an Islamic institution of charity, whether they are giving charity out and calling people towards the deen of Allah and trying to show the oneness of Ummah in whichever form or shape it may be, whether it be in the form of giving speeches and reminders. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all and preserve all. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Say Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. But we need to understand the core question. And the core question which I would like to pose to myself and to everybody else is, what path have we chosen? Have we chosen the path of making Ummah go a downfall? Have we chosen a path by which the Ummah of Muhammad is going away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or have we chosen a path which will make the Ummah great again? Yes. Which path have we chosen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, سأصرف عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will turn away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran sometimes uses the plural tense. And many a times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the singular tense as well. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Allah uses the plural tense here. We are the ones that have revealed the book, the Quran, and we are the ones that will preserve it. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the singular phrase, سَأَصْرِفْ. Allah says, I will turn away from the recognition of my signs. سَأَصْرِفْ عَنْ آيَاتِي. I will turn away people from recognizing haqq, from recognizing the true path, from recognizing the right path, the path in regards to which me and you ask every single day in our daily prayers, every single rak'ah. We say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Pray, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. Every single salah, every namaz that we pray, whether it's sunnah, whether it's wajib, whether it's fard, every single rak'ah consists of Surah Al-Fatiha. And we ask Allah, all praise is due to the Lord of the worlds. All praise is due to the Master of the universe, to the Master of the worlds, to the Lord of the worlds, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment, Owner of the Day of Judgment. Only you do we worship, and only through you, Ya Allah, we seek your assistance. Only you do we worship, and only through you do we seek your assistance. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. What do we say? Allah guide us upon the straight path. What do we say? Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Allah guide us, say Ameen. And when we read the Quranic verse, when we are reading Surah Al-Fatiha, and when we come to this ayah, we have to try and understand the Quran, try and implement the Quran, try and bring it into our heart and mind. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Let's not just read it parrot fashion. Let it not just be that we are reading the Quran for the sake of reading the Quran. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. When we read that, we have this in our heart and mind. We have this thought process that I want guidance from Allah on the straight path, inshallah. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us upon the straight path. Guide us upon the straight path. Sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim. The path of those upon whom you, Allah, bestowed your favors. You conferred your favors. Upon whom you showered your favors. Sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم. Not the path of those. Not the path of those. غير المغضوب عليهم. Upon whom came the wrath, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. غير المغضوب عليهم. Not the path of those upon whom the anger of Allah came. ولا الضالين. And not the path of those who went astray, who lost the right path, who didn't choose to follow the way of Allah and the world follow the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when we say صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. The path of the shuhada, the path of the prophets, من النبيين, the path of the truthful ones, صديقين والشهداء, and the martyrs, and the very pious ones, Allah's close servants. So Allah says, I will turn them away. I will turn away those people from recognizing my signs, who first and foremost do what? الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. Those that are arrogant, have the despicable characteristic of kibr and arrogance and boastfulness in them. Allah says, I will deprive them of guidance. I will not give them the ability to recognize my signs. I will not give them the hidayah which I want them to have. سأصرف عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق. The ones that have the quality of takabbur, kibr. This was a very despicable act regarding which Allah has mentioned in many verses of the Holy Quran, giving us guidance to stay away from arrogance, stay away from boastfulness, stay away from being boastful and arrogant and proud. Allah says, سأصرف. I will turn away عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض. Those that were arrogant on the face of this earth without haqq, wrongfully. They had no right. to be boastful. Al-kibr, takabbur is from al-amrad. Takabbur and kibr and boastfulness and arrogance is from the mother of all illnesses. The very first sin that was committed in the heavens was none but arrogance. Iblis, when he was told by Allah, when he was told to do sajda to Adam alayhi salam, I am being created by fire. Adam has been created by clay. I am superior, I am greater, I can make that soil and clay into ashes. But Allah wanted to see how much obedience is this so-called Iblis. He wasn't called Iblis first. He was given a title, inshallah. The Mufassirin say, he was given a title. He was so devout in his worship that he was given the title Ta'usul Malaika. Out of the birds, the most beautiful bird is the peacock. The most beautiful bird is the peacock. And everybody that possesses a peacock feels proud and cherished. Why? I have a peacock. It's beautiful when it comes out with all its feathers. It's a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful bird. So this Iblis كان من الجن ففسق عن أمر ربه. This Iblis was actually obedient to Allah initially. He was showing most obedience. He never left one place without doing sajda to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the main thing is, we are subservient to the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't do what we want to do, we have to follow the way of Allah, shown to us and demonstrated to us through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Iblis rejected. Iblis refused. Iblis showed arrogance. And this became the very first sin in the heavens that Iblis committed. Ujb, takabbur, is like brother and sister. Ujb is when a person feels high of himself. He feels I am superior. I am something. Allah protect us, Ameen Rabbil Alameen. Allah protect us, Ameen Rabbil Alameen. One dua, Rasulullah sallallahu taught me and you. We need to read the dua on a daily basis. Allahumma ja'alni sabura. وَاجْعَلْنِي شَكُورًا وَاجْعَلْنِي فِي عَيْنِي صَغِيرًا وَفِي أَعْيُنِ النَّاسِ كَبِيرًا أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والتسليم آمين يا رب العالمين. Allah, make me extremely patient. Say, Allahumma ja'alni, say come on, Allahumma ja'alni sabura waj'alni shakura, and make me extremely grateful. Waj'alni fi aini saghira. Hafiz Shafiq Sahib, write this dua and put it up and teach the children as well, inshallah. Very beneficial. And make me minor, make me small in my own eyes. Don't make me think big of myself. The more humble we are, man tawada'a lillahi rafa'ahu Allah. Whosoever will be humble for the sake of Allah, Allah will raise his status in the eyes of people. Subhanallah. So ask the Rafiq, is that the green light you're talking about? I've not even started, I'm sorry. Subhanallah, my red light is coming up soon. I just about started the subject. Sheikh Zahir का पूरा बयान हम सुनेंगे इंशाअल्लाह। नहीं, अल्लाह बरकत दे। आपके बयान को सुनने के लिए हम आए। अल्लाह अकबर कबीरा, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। Takabbur, ujb. Ujb is when a person feels high of himself. Make me think small of myself. Allah, give me izzah and honor in the eyes of the people. Ameen ya Rabbal Alamin. Regularly read this dua. Allah will save us, inshallah, from vanity and from proudness, inshallah, from boastfulness, inshallah. The more humble we are, for the sake of Allah, not so that we show people, मैं कितना बुजुर्ग हूँ, मैं कितना आज़िम, मैं कितना मुतवाज़ी हूँ. I'm so humble to show people as though you're a big बुजुर्ग. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. That's not lillah. That's linnas. My Habib Sallallahu says, man tawada'a lillah. Whosoever will be humble for the sake of Allah, rafa'ahu Allah. Allah will raise him in the eyes of the people, inshallah. To think low of oneself, that is tawadu. And think high of oneself, and to feel proud of oneself and think you are superior to others. Not to belittle anybody, not to show that and demonstrate that arrogance is called ujub. And once you start demonstrating that, once you start belittling people with your tongue, with your actions, then that would be called kibr. As Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that person la yadkhulul jannah man kana fi qalbihi mithqalu dharratin min kibr. That person will not enter paradise. Who wants to go Jannah, inshallah? Put your hands up, inshallah. Every one of us, inshallah, wants to go to Jannah, and this is the path we want to choose to go to Jannah, inshallah. We have to be free from vanity and from boastfulness and from proud and from kibr. We have to be free from arrogance. La yadkhulul jannah. My Habib says, that person will not enter paradise in whose heart will be an iota, mithqalu dharratin min kibr, an iota of takabbur. An atom's weight of takabbur. Allah protect us, very difficult. Study. Allah save me from vanity. Allah save me from kibr and ujwa. Amin. Very difficult, very easy for the listeners, very difficult for the speaker, especially for myself. I don't speak for others, I speak for myself. कभी कभार शैतान और नफ्स हावी हो जाता है और इंसान बोलने वाला अपने आप को पाकीज़ा समझने लगता है, अपने आप को बड़ा समझने लगता है. अल्लाह ताला हमारी हिफाजत फरमाए. कहने वाला बोलने वाले के लिए बहुत बड़ा इम्तिहान है. अल्लाह ताला हमारी हिफाजत फरमाए. That person will not enter paradise who has an iota, an atom's weight of takabbur and arrogance. One person said, a person, when we go out, we like to be well dressed. When I was coming today, my wife says, make sure you get a good jubah. Make sure you got a nice jacket on. Okay, hold on, honey. No, Moli Rafiq, you want to make sure when you go out, I want to make sure that I don't get any bad information that we are dressed well. Allah. Here a man asks, Rasulullah فقال الرجل إن الرجل يحب أن يكون ثوبه حسنا ونعله حسنا. A man wants that he wears good clothes. A man wants that he's got good nice shoes on, good footwear, expensive ones. Who's got expensive footwear? Put your hand up. Now they want to hide. MashaAllah. He's honest. Children are honest and innocent, mashallah. Wardrobes are full of jackets and blazers and shoes. Some are £100, some are more, some are less. Allah give us the tawfiq to give it in charity. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. A person wants to have good clothes on. He wants to have good footwear. So Rasulullah says, Inna Allah jameel. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله جميل يحب الجمال. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is jameel. He is excellent. And Allah ta'ala likes things in excellence. Allah ta'ala likes things to be beautiful and best. Do your best, perform your best. Do everything to the best of your ability, because that's what Allah ta'ala wants. He doesn't want us to have our sluggish ibadah. He doesn't want us to come into the masjid looking as though we're going to die now. Yeah? He wants us to show that we are something, alhamdulillah. When we do our worship, we do it with happiness and joy and enjoyment, not as a burden. Inna Allah jameel. When we perform, my young children, when you do exams, then perform to the best of your ability. When you are doing your GCSE studies, do it to the best of your ability. But at the same time, when you come to madrasa, or when you come and learn in the Quran, make sure you perform to the best of your ability. Make sure you do the best hifz. Make sure you become the best alim. Make sure you try and be that person which will be anfa'un nas, the one who will be most beneficial to the people, inshallah. Inna Allah jameel, yuhibbul jamal. Allah Ta'ala is all beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfecting. Allah Ta'ala likes perfection. Al-kibr. What is takabbur? What is ujub? Batarul haqq wa ghamtul nas. Rawahu Muslim rahimahullah. Kibr is to reject the truth and to belittle people. Rawahu Muslim rahimahullah. My time is coming to an end. And the topic is of importance. Which path are you going to choose? And the Quranic verse which I recited I want to conclude that inshallah. Allah says, سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِيَ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. I will turn away from recognizing my signs. In everything we see, isn't there a sign of Allah? Tell me yes or no? Allah Ta'ala in one chapter of the Holy Quran, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ sign upon sign upon sign. In another verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And within your own selves, in our own creation, the way Allah Ta'ala has given us features, our hands, our feet, our ears, our nose, our tongue, our mind, our intellect, these are all signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please attention towards this side. Don't look who's coming in. That is not of our concern. I would request, I have tolerated this, Hafiz Shafiq sir, but I would request the volunteers to keep the volume low for the other speakers inshallah. Because it does distract us. When we're standing here and people are trying, the ushers have to keep their tongue silent and try to push people along without making a noise inshallah. This is part of adab, otherwise it distracts the speaker. Jazakallah khair, barak. मैं आपकी भी इस्लाह करूँगा इंशाल्लाह. मुफ्त का मैं यहाँ पे नहीं आया. अपनी भी इस्लाह होगी, आपकी भी इस्लाह होगी, सबकी इस्लाह होगी इंशाल्लाह. अल्लाह की बारका माशाअल्लाह. ये मोहब्बत है भाई, समझे? ये क्या समझे मोहब्बत के जवाब? क्यों शेख ज़हीर? In love of, when you have love for somebody, you can say something in this way. I have love for Hafiz Shafiq sir, mashallah. Allah Ta'ala give him a long life. Say Ameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve this Jami Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Allah give it more success. Day by day I have seen, mashallah, from the very outset. I used to come at those times in the Madrasa Annual Jalsa when you never had this place. We used to do it in that hall, what's it called? Hafiz Shafiq sir, that community center. We used to hold programs there. And then mashallah this place was purchased. And alhamdulillah slowly but gradually it's moving forward. Allah give it more barakah inshallah ta'ala. Allah ta'ala take care of all the needs of Jami Abdullah bin Mas'ud Ameen Rabbil Alameen, from the treasures which are hidden away. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. Allah ta'ala give Hafiz Sahib a long life. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. So I was just trying to conclude this verse inshallah Hafiz Sahib. سأصرف عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق. I will turn away from recognizing my signs those people that are arrogant on the face of this earth wrongfully without having a right. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا كُلَّ آيَةٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِهَا. And if they see every sign of Allah's qudra, every sign is shown to them, look, this is the ayat of Allah, look, this is the sign of Allah, لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِهَا. They will not believe in it. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الرُّشْدِ لَا يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا. And if they are shown the path of righteousness, the path of guidance, then they will not take that as a path. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الْغَيْبِ. And if you show them the path of shaitan, the path of deviance, the path of alcohol, the path of drugs, the path of following whims and desires, the path of those who are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are following their whims and desires, who are following the shaitanic path. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الْغَيْبِ. When they see that path, it has an inclination. They have an inclination towards that. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الْغَيْبِ يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا. Then they adopt that and they take that as their path. Allah deprives them of hidayah. Why? ذلك بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا. Abdur Rahman, Fatima, Zainab. Allah mentions the reason why. ذلك بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا وكانوا عنها غافلين. It is because they rejected our signs. They rejected our signs. They did not recognize our signs. ذلك بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا وكانوا عنها غافلين. And they were heedless in regards to them. والذين كذبوا بآياتنا ولقاء الآخرة حبطت أعمالهم هل يجزون إلا ما كانوا يعملون. Allah concludes this verse by saying those that rejected our signs and the meeting on the day of judgments and the meeting of Allah on the day of Akhirah and the Yawm al-Qiyamah, who rejected that, حبطت أعمالهم. Their deeds are perished. Their deeds are perished. They have nothing left. هل يجزون, they will not be recompensed and retributed. They will not be given any other badla and jaza except what they did in this world. هل يجزون إلا ما كانوا يعملون. Can we expect anything else? Abdullah, Abdur Rahman, Fatima, Zainab, there is no compulsion in deen. Allah has given us a choice. لا إكراه في الدين. There is no compulsion in deen. قد تبين الرشد من الغي. Our ulama, our mashayikh today will enlighten us, inshallah, will give us some guidance so that we don't deviate from the right path. Allah Ta'ala give us hidayah to accept that. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah give us hidayah to accept that. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. لا إكراه في الدين. There is no compulsion in deen. قد تبين الرشد من الغي. Guidance is distinct. Guidance is clear from deviance. قد تبين الرشد من الغي. فمن يكفر بالطاغوت, whosoever will disbelieve and reject the shaitan, the taghut, the rebels, ويؤمن بالله, and he believes in Allah, فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى. فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى. He has held on strongly to the firmest handhold. Subhanallah. He has held on strongly to the firmest handhold. لَنْ فِصَمَ لَهَا. There is no breaking of this handhold. There is no breaking of this strongness holding. Allahu Akbar. لَنْ فِصَمَ لَهَا وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Allahu وَلِيُّ الَّذِينَ. Who can be my guardian? Who can be your guardian? Who can be the protector, my protector, and your protector? None but, say it loud and clear, none but Allah. None but Allah. None but Allah. Say la ilaha illallah. Say la ilaha illallah. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah will be the protector for the believers, inshallah. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur. And He will take the believing people out from the layers of darkness into the light. Say inshallah ta'ala. وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ الله أكبر لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا, whilst those who reject, whilst those who disobey, whilst those who adopt the life of kufr and infidelity, what will happen to them? والذين كفروا, what will happen to them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not take, they will, the shaitan, taghut and tawaghit will take them away. Their wali and their protector will be shaitan. How will they protect them? الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت. Their protectors will be taghut and the rebels and shayateen. يخرجونهم, they will take them out. من النور إلى الظلمات, opposite. They will take them away from the light of Islam into the pitches of darkness, into the layers of darkness. Allah protect us all. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah Ta'ala make us adopt the path of those who are successful. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give us all the true understanding of His Deen al-Islam. Which path will me and you choose? We will choose the path of the Anbiya, say inshallah. We will choose the path of the Siddiqeen. We will choose the path of the awliya. Allah's Prophet Muhammad said in the hadith, in the khutbah that I mentioned, كُلُّ أُمَّتِ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَبَى. Every single ummati of mine, like I started, we are all the ummah of Prophet Muhammad. Every single ummati of mine will enter into paradise except those that will reject. وَقِيلَ وَمَنْ يَعْبَى يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. It was asked, Ya Rasulullah, who are the rejectors? قيل ومن يأبى يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من أطاعني دخل الجنة ومن عصاني فقد أبى أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والتسليم رواه البخاري رحمه الله. Whosoever will obey me, follow the footsteps of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he will enter into paradise, and whosoever will disobey, he is from the rejectors. Allah protect me and you from being amongst those who are the rejectors. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah Ta'ala make us from the true followers. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And Allah Ta'ala make us choose the path of those whom Allah Ta'ala was pleased with, whom Allah Ta'ala bestowed His favors upon, whom Allah Ta'ala granted Jannah and give them good bliss and happiness in this world, in the akhirah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa ma alayna illa al-balagh. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyil kareem. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyil kareem. Fa jazakumullahu khairan. Ahsan al-jazaa fi ad-darain. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, this was our respected Sheikh Rafiq Sufi. May Allah grant us the ability to act on the beautiful advice that Sheikh has given us. Ameen. Now I would like to introduce to you our first respected guest, Sheikh Dr. Rafaqat Rashid Hafidullah. Sheikh Dr. Rafaqat Rashid Hafidullah is a traditional Muslim scholar, general practitioner, professional trainer and educator. He is the co-founder of Al-Balagh Academy and course director of many of its courses such as its popular fiqh program. He is one of the senior lecturers at JKN as the main teacher of Arabic grammar, known for his extraordinary ways of teaching Arabic grammar which attracts students from many different towns. He is a staff writer for Al-Mu'min magazine, known for his articles Ask a Muslim Doctor, A Living Islam in Modern Times. An academic in the field of Islamic medical ethics and medical law, having obtained his masters from the University of Manchester on the subject of Muslim scholarly debates on the issue of organ transplantation, and also holding the title of honorary lecturer at the University of Leeds. Sheikh Dr. Rafaqat has been given ijazah from a number of Muslim scholars from the UK and abroad. He has been involved in training ulama, students and the general public for a number of years. He has lectured and delivered courses on numerous topics related to medical fiqh, including Islam, leadership, life skills, counseling, teacher training, advanced Islamic research techniques, and health ethics and atheism. Specializing in Islamic fiqh and ethics related to organ transplantation, immunizations, and end-of-life decisions. He spends a lot of his time leading and developing the advanced curricula and advanced studies and advanced Islamic research of Dars al-Nizami syllabus in the English medium to the up-and-coming traditional Muslim scholars of the future. More recently, he's taken up the task of authoring books on Hadith, Usul al-Fiqh, and researching Islamic bioethics. Now I would like to invite our respected Sheikh Dr. Rafaqat Rashid to come forward and enlighten us with his words on the topic, the blessings and value of time.
الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Respected ulama, shuyukh, elders, brothers, sisters, and young ones, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very blessed gathering, alhamdulillah. And to be present in this gathering with some very renowned shuyukh is truly a great ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't appreciate these things. You travel around, even different parts of the UK, you'll find very few Muslims. And in those kind of environments, there's a serious thirst to have scholars of this degree, to be there, to guide the communities. We should accept and really do the hamd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to be in the presence of great scholars like this. Now, I'm a real pragmatist, which basically means I like to go down to the root issues that usually tend to arise in our communities. And most of my time is generally spent either training people to develop them in certain areas, not that I am very well trained myself, but generally to get them in the right form of mind so that we have the next Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam to really drive Islam the way Islam should be driven. One of the most important things that I want to emphasize is the concept of al-asr, time. And before I go into the detail of this, let me just bring to your attention this study that was done in America some time ago, about two decades ago. And this study was essentially given the name of marshmallow test. I don't know if any of you have actually heard of it, but I'll explain what the study was. And the interesting study here was, I'm being recognizant or the fact that there's quite a lot of youth. And usually when you are invited to youth conferences, there's probably more elders than there are youth there. SubhanAllah, it's a real blessing that we've got quite a few youth here. So we'll address the youth first. So in this study, what they did was they actually gathered a number of children from many, many different backgrounds. And the idea behind the study was to assess what is it that brings success in children. What are those attributes that children must have? So parents, if you're listening, what attributes there must be in children to ensure success in the future? Completely secular study. There's no religion focus in this whatsoever. So this is what they did. They gathered a number of kids, got hold of their background, different kind of backgrounds, put them all into one room. And in this room, they placed marshmallow in, delicately decorated in front of them. And the idea was, they were all given some pitch for approximately 5 to 10 minutes about those of you who are able to control yourself over the next few hours. You will be immensely rewarded if you do not touch any of this. So they left these children in this room. As soon as that individual walked out, some immediately went for it. They didn't hesitate whatsoever. Within a few seconds, literally, they went straight for it. There were the others who waited for about 5-10 minutes, sweated a bit, and then, alhamdulillah, they did the same, went for this as well. And then, maybe some, an hour later, others 2 hours later, and then the trial was over. Now the interesting thing about this study was, it was a follow-up study for them, and they did for about 10 to 22 years. They followed up each individual child to see where they went, what did they do. And the interesting thing was, those children, on average, who could not resist the temptation, they were the least successful in their lives. In terms of their career, in terms of their marriage, in terms of bringing up their children. And those who were able to control themselves, they clearly had a successful career, a good marriage, they were living a much wealthier life and so forth. So seen as a dunyai success. Now, it's an interesting point to take from this, something that we need to learn from. I'm going to introduce another principle. So let me explain this principle for you first. This is called the 20-80 Pareto principle. I don't know if some of you guys may have heard of this, but generally speaking, let's just take into consideration the carpet that we have in this room. Now, 20% of this carpet in this room is used 80% of the time. What that basically means, if you measure the whole of this carpet, there are corners and places on this carpet that people just don't walk on because it's in an unusual place or a place where you can't access. So you generally use 20% of this carpet, usually the central part of the carpet, 80% of the time. Same thing, your clothes, the clothes that you wear. So 20%, on average, 20% of the clothes that you guys wear, you wear them 80% of the time. So, majority of the time, you're wearing the same clothes. And there are many clothes, or many clothes in your closet, which clearly you do not wear, or you hardly ever wear, or you may have never worn. This idea relates to time. 20% of the things that you do 80% of the time in your life. So that 20% is absolutely essential, that 20% is that 20% that you spend that will truly benefit you. But unfortunately, our 20% of our life that we spend doing all these activities are useless activities. And they do not benefit us. So we do these activities 80% of the time, and as a result of this, we fail in many different attributes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْعَصْرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by time, then clearly that suggests that time is a very, very important thing for us as Muslims. Time is the essence for us. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Indeed, man is at loss. Which suggests that reality is that every single one of us is at loss. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ. Except. If somebody was to say to you that everyone is a failure, but this someone is not anyone. This is our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. These are the exceptions. In other words, if you do not want to be a failure, then it's absolutely important you become amongst these people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those people who believe and they do good deeds. وَتَوَاصُوا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصُوا بِالصَّبْرِ. And they encourage others towards the truth, and they encourage others towards sabr and patience and perseverance. I'm going to elaborate on this surah, because this surah, every single part of the Holy Quran. I was teaching my students Balagha the other day, and because it's the beginning of the term and just give an introduction to the subject. And one of the amazing things about Islamic or Arabic rhetoric, or Balagha as they say, is that we study the Quran and all sorts of literature, Arabic literature, solely because we recognize that the Holy Quran is such that this is the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's the words of Allah, that every single word in the Holy Quran has been chosen in such a way that there is no word that could have been better placed than that particular word in the Quran. In that fashion, in that order, in the way that that surah has been put together. Because this is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no perfection beyond that. So for us, we want to know, why has Allah chosen this particular word to give this particular meaning? And that's the beauty of this science. In a similar way, when we look at this particular surah, it's a small surah, many of us have already memorized this. But when we look at this surah has extensive meaning. Extensive meaning. And I'm just going to elaborate on just some of those meanings. So the first thing that we're referring to here, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Those of you who believe. The first requisite for you to ensure that you are not a failure is that you must be a believer. If you are not a believer, then there is failure. So on this basis, the question arises, what does that entail? For me to be a believer, what does that entail? Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the beginning of the Quran after Surah Fatiha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins with the huruf muqatta'at. These are separate letters. Each one of them identifies with a mysterious understanding. The shuyukh, the ulama, try to do ta'wil of this and try to understand what this means, may have many different opinions. But then the Quran begins, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ. This kitab, the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no doubt in this Quran. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is guidance for the muttaqeen. Not hudan linnas. This is guidance for people. But you must attain the attribute of taqwa, muttaqeen, for you to truly gain from the Holy Quran. يُذِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِهِ بِكَثِيرًا. And for this reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes reference that there are many who go into the Holy Quran and they are guided. But there are many also who go into the Quran and they are misguided. Which shows that just by reading the Quran, alhamdulillah, the reward is immense. But just by reading the Quran and trying to think that you will just understand it just like this is not necessarily true. But rather, your frame of mind has to be right. The nature of who you are and your attributes must be correct. And then truly then, you will understand the Holy Quran. And truly then, will the Quran have impact on you. There are many who sometimes read translations of the Quran. They read English translations of the Quran. And they ask, why is this not impacting me? Why is this not affecting me? The reason is this, that you must gain taqwa, that God consciousness. When you have that God consciousness in you, then when you read the Quran, it will have its immense impact. Now, having said this, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. The next condition, لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, there is no doubt in the Quran. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those people who believe, those people who have taqwa, are those people who believe in the unseen. My brothers, a part of our faith is to believe in the unseen. To believe in the unseen. What? We believe in Jannah. We've never seen Jannah. We believe in the malaika, the angels. We've never seen angels. There are many promises that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes in the Holy Quran for the believers. We've never seen them. We've never even seen the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But yet, we believe. And that is a big thing. Because today we live in a world where you are framed, your mind is framed to only believe that what you see, what you hear, what you smell. Think about that. Your mind is being framed in this way. When you go to school, that's how your mind is framed. Only what you can see, only what you can hear, only what you can smell, only what you can touch is real. Anything other than that is a fairy tale. So our minds are being corrupted on that basis. I'm somebody who's come from an academic background. I've gone through school, I've been through university. And I will tell you, and now I spend half my time trying to convince people that there's a whole philosophy of the mind, how the world is framing our mind in such a way that we have become materialists. Meaning that the only thing we believe in is those things that are tangible to our senses. Anything beyond that we do not accept. Whereas our Quran clearly says that we must believe in the unseen. The unseen that the Quran has very clearly stated for us. وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ. And we must establish salah. So it's not just a question of believing the Quran, believing what the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has taught us, but rather also to act upon this. Establishing salah, to read your salah, because this is the only form of true action that demonstrates that you have testified and you believe. When you turn to your Creator in this particular manner, there is no action greater than this. The physical action, there is no physical action greater than this, done to do sujood before your Creator. Now, the point to take from this, which was mentioned earlier on, was a very interesting point. And I just want to emphasize this before I talk about some of the other concepts about wal asr. I want you to think about this carefully. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that when we said to the angels, prostrate, they prostrated. Allah says they prostrated. إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ, except for Iblis. أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ, he refused. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He didn't just say he refused, he became arrogant. And when he became arrogant, كَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ, he became amongst the disbelievers. As Sheikh was saying earlier on, it wasn't that Iblis was somebody who did not see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the sense that he should have seen him. He knew of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had knowledge. He understood. He was an alim. So he had the knowledge. He was an abid. He worshipped Allah. He worshipped Allah intensely. But he wasn't an arif. He wasn't somebody who truly recognized the might and the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you may have the knowledge. You may even worship Allah. But if the heart is not sound, then you will not truly recognize who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. You will not recognize Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, O Iblis, why did you not prostrate to Adam? All the other angels, they prostrated to Adam. Why did you not prostrate to Adam? What was his response? Now think about this intensely. Ana khayrun min. I'm better than him. That was his response. I am better than him. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتُهُ مِن طِينٍ. You have created from fire, and you have created him from clay. Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah in his Qistas al-Mustaqim, he explains something really, really useful here. And one thing he says here, he says that Iblis used his aql, used his intellect, used reason, and that was his failure. He used reason and that was his failure. Whereas we have always been taught, if you use your aql, use your reasoning, then that is your success. But that was his failure. And Imam Ghazali says that if he had truly understood, he said that this was false reasoning, faulty reasoning. And the reason why there was faulty reasoning here is because his heart was not sound. So, when he said that I am better than him, I have been made from the fire and he's been made from the clay, he misunderstood the concept. He thought that I am fire, I am more powerful, I can destroy clay, I can burn clay, I can destroy it. Whereas to destroy is nothing compared to create. You think about a child who makes a massive Lego set, produces a whole castle out of a Lego set. How long will it take him? Hours, days maybe, weeks maybe? And all it takes is for his little brother to come and get a good kick. And there goes the whole Lego in one piece. How much effort was required in that? Very little effort. On the same basis, to create, look at the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. how He has created insan, the complex machinery that works in our body, the way we communicate, the way we are, the world, the dunya, the way it's been created. Creating things is an immense role. And if He had thought like this, then He would have realized that we are made from clay. We are made from clay. Allah's creation is made from clay. And all fire does is destroy. To make and create is a fundamentally higher thing than to destroy. And if He realized that, then He would not have said, "Ana khayrun minhu," that I am better than him. He would have realized that what you have created here is much better than what I am. But rather, the fault in him was not that. The fault in him was that as soon as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the command to prostrate before the angels, he should have done this without any form of hesitation. And that is the state of a Muslim. It is essential that we follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without any form of hesitation. Our aql does not even come into it. The whole purpose is that we are serving our Creator, and that is the main purpose. Then the point comes, I just want to explain two things. I noticed subhanAllah, the green light's on again. But just a few things. I want to ask you a question. But you don't need to answer me because there's so many of you. But I want you to think about this. When it comes to your deen, are you compliant or are you committed? Let me explain the difference between the two. Let me explain the difference. A young boy, he goes to the masjid al-Fajr with his father, al-Dhuhr with his father, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Now, there comes a time, father is unwell. He cannot go to the masjid. So father is so unwell, he's in hospital. So he's not at home. Does this boy wake up for Fajr? Does this boy go to the masjid? So, reality is that if he goes to the masjid and he reads his Fajr because his father is telling him, then he is compliant. He's compliant. Willingly or unwillingly, he'll go. So even though his will is not there, he will still go. Because his father's there, he's telling him. When father's no longer there, he doesn't. So that's commitment. You committed to something. So we may be committed to our deen. We may be like this. The question is, are you compliant? And compliant basically means that whatever you do it willingly. You do it because your heart is in this. You do it because you have to do it. You do it because of your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Creator. And this is what we need to imbibe within ourselves. And only when we imbibe this within, I'm talking to parents specifically, is only when we imbibe this in ourselves will our children behave this way. If we are committed to our deen, and only then truly our children follow our way. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكونوا حواء تبعا لما جئتم. None of you are true believers until your desires are in line with what I have brought you. Until your desires fall in line with the Sharia. In other words, when the Sharia says that this is good, your heart is in it. When the Sharia says that this is wrong, your heart is not in it. Now, let's go back. وَتَوَاصُوا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصُوا بِالصَّبْرِ. And the idea behind this, let me give you an idea, just a couple of concepts. Just to demonstrate truly whether you have self-control. Whether your desires are in line with your control or whether out of control. Let me give you an example. We have what we call our long-term goals, and we have what we call our short-term pleasures. So there is what we call impulsive behavior that we have in ourselves. So let's say I am overweight. I need to lose weight. Clear, long-term goal. Okay? I go somewhere, a beautiful, nice, delicious cake is put in front of me. I can't hold my desire. I have to have some. So there goes your long-term goal. You do that a couple of times and then your long-term goal is completely smashed. That's impulsive behavior. Many of us have this. And if you even sit with the awliya, they will even teach you to control yourself even with these impulsions that you have. Then you have planned. This is impulsive. Planned concepts. So for example, that the role is that I need to save up for a house. But then you see this beautiful beach somewhere and you spend your money on this. So these are planned. You're even planning this. Even then, your control's not there. And then there's also priority goals. There are those of us who say, and I met somebody not too long ago, he was boasting about how much he's doing for his children. So I asked him, that's really good to hear, and we need more people like that they committed to their children. So I asked him, why is it that you do? He said, I work day in, day out, earning money so that my children can be well off tomorrow. This is his concept of really giving time to his children. Now if he had truly understood the reality of that, the best thing that he could have done was actually give time to his children. Not give time to work. So the priorities are not right. So this is the other concept of not having your higher priorities in line. Then, finally, we've gone beyond time, so I'll cut it down. Just to make sure that we understand that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, these concepts suggest very clearly that if you want to encourage others towards good and truth, and you want to encourage others towards sabr and patience, then it's absolutely essential you sit with those people who have mastered this. Who have mastered this. If you truly want to be able to perform at a level which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah says, كُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Be with the truthful ones. Be in their company. See the way they live. See the way they cry at night. See the way they have sabr. See the way they have trials and tribulations and how they deal with this. When everybody else is panicking, they sit there in their little area on the masalla and they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, crying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And their contentment is in that. Be in their company. Be in their company as parents. Only when you are in the company of the pious will your children be in the company of the pious. We run a course at JKN and we've been running this for some time. Call it the Sanatain course, it's changed its name now. And initially we were getting adults, we were getting a real influx of children. So we were thinking, why is this happening? And then we realized later on, because we got makatib, clearly parents can send their kids to makatib. But they seem to be interested in sending them here. And we realized that the reason because of this is because parents are realizing that kids are becoming unruly. My kids don't listen to us. They don't listen to us. So I have my 9-to-5 job. And then after 5, I watch TV. I don't have time for my children. Before he was going to a maktab, he was being babysat there. And now, I have to deal with him at home. Alhamdulillah, there's another institute there that can deal with this. This kind of attitude is wrong. You must take the role of doing the tarbiyah of your children. Don't make that is priority. The priority is with the parents. And the only way that will work for you is if you're in the company of pious people. If you sit in the company of pious people, then your children will end up in that kind of company. And that will have an impact on you. I'll finish on that. But before I finish, let's all make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, bring iman in our hearts. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bring islah in our lives. And make us of those who take the company of the pious. So that their impact has an impact on us, because we know that if we were to go to a blacksmith and sit in the company of a blacksmith, what would happen? All that filth and dirt would end upon us. But if we were to go to somebody who makes perfumes and oud and itar, we sit in the company of those kind of people, even if we are not active, we just sat in their company, in their shop, the fragrance will be present on all of our bodies. And that fragrance will be something that you will be taking home. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst the pious. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, this was our respected Sheikh, Dr. Rafaqat Rashid. May Allah grant us the ability to act upon the beautiful advice that Sheikh has given us. Ameen. Now I would like to introduce a student of the madrasa to recite some verses of the Quran.
المصباح
MashaAllah. Now I would like to introduce to you our respected Sheikh Rahman ibn Yusuf Mangera Hafidullah. Sheikh Rahman ibn Yusuf Mangera Hafidullah is a British Muslim scholar educated in both the Islamic and Western traditions. He memorized the Quran by heart and graduated from the Darul Uloom Seminary, Bury, UK, and later earned a specialized license to issue fatwa at Zahir Uloom Saharanpur, India. He earned his BA from the University of Johannesburg and completed his MA and PhD in Islamic Studies from the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. He holds an honorary fellowship at the Cambridge Muslim College and at the Royal Al-Bayt Institute for Islamic Thought, Amman, Jordan. Sheikh Rahman on both sides of the Atlantic. Sheikh Rahman has the unique experience of serving as an imam in Muslim communities on both sides of the Atlantic, 8 years in Southern California and over 5 in the great city of London, and his continued work as an international speaker and lecturer enables him to address and offer pertinent advice on current challenges that face Muslims in the West. Now I would like to invite our respected Sheikh Rahman ibn Yusuf Mangera to come forward and enlighten us with his words on the topic of atheism.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala al-mab'uthi rahmatan lil alameen. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa baraka wa sallama tasliman kathiran ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين. Dear young friends, dear older friends, dear ulama, let me just tell you a quick story. I generally don't use these kind of stories, but this one is one of those classical stories that you would have generally heard. And I think it's a really good story. So I'm going to mention it. Do you like stories? Harun al-Rashid was one of the greatest of the Abbasid Khalifs. And he became a Khalif at a time when already the Abbasid Caliphate was quite extended anyway. And he had a huge amount of land and people under his control. One day he's walking along the seashore. I'm not sure which river it was, but he was walking along the seashore, and he sees this old man who was in his kingdom, in his area. His name was Bahlul. Bahlul was this older man who used to be a bit eccentric, means he's a bit unique in the way he does things. He's not the normal kind of guy. Sorry, we've got children here, we need to keep it relevant to them. Quite a task, isn't it? I was sitting upstairs listening to your talk. I was like, okay, there's children there. So you understand what eccentric means now, right? It's a bit unique and a bit different. So you know what that old man was doing? He was building sandcastles. And have you ever seen an old man building sandcastles? Right? No, now you have. He was building sandcastles, these palaces. So Harun al-Rashid is walking along with his wife. Anybody know his wife's name? Zubaydah. Good job, not Zulaykha, right? Zubaydah. That was his wife's name. She was actually the daughter of one of the greatest of the Abbasid Khalifs, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, who actually built Baghdad, who was the one who established Baghdad as the Darul Khilafah. After the Umayyads, he moved it to Baghdad in Iraq. So Zubaydah was a really wonderful woman who has done a lot of welfare work. She was also the one responsible for bringing water to the Hajis in Mina and Muzdalifah Arafat by a canal, because there was no water source in those days and the Hajis used to find it very difficult. This was obviously several hundred, over 1,000 years ago. So as they're walking, he's in front and he sees this Bahlul making sandcastles. He said, Bahlul, what are you doing? He says, I'm making palaces of Jannah and I'm selling them for 1 dinar a piece. So I'm selling them for maybe £50 for one. So Harun al-Rashid is obviously a Khalif, he's a businessman. He says, who's going to give you 1 dinar for a sandcastle? So he carries on. His wife comes along and again she sees him building this sandcastle. He says, what are you doing? He says, I'm building palaces of Jannah. and I'm selling them for 1 dinar a piece. So she said, okay, I'll buy one from you. Right? Women are more emotional, less business-minded in that sense. She says, okay, I'll buy one for whatever reason she bought it. So she buys one for 1 dinar. At night time, Harun al-Rashid goes to sleep as he does every night, and he sees a dream, and in that dream he sees himself in paradise, in Jannah. And as he's walking in Jannah, he suddenly sees this huge, beautiful palace, and emblazoned across the front is Zubaydah, that this is Zubaydah's palace. So he thinks it's his wife's palace. He says, can I go and look at it from the guard to the guards? He says, can I go and look at it? Can I go and inspect it? He says, no, you're not allowed. This is your wife's palace. When he wakes up in the morning, he realizes that he should have also bought one of those sandcastles. Would you have bought one if you'd seen it for 1 dinar? No. Well, you probably don't have the dinar, right? That's why. So when he wakes up in the morning, he feels really upset that I've missed out on an opportunity. So the next morning, the next day, he says, I'm going to go back to that same place, hoping that Bahlul is making sandcastles. I'll buy one. I'll buy maybe a few today. So he goes, and yes, surely there is Bahlul making sandcastles. He says, Bahlul, what are you doing? He says, I'm making palaces of Jannah, and I'm selling them. He says, okay, I'm going to take a few. He says, yeah, today each one is equivalent to your entire kingdom. So he says, what's the problem? Yesterday they were 1 dinar, maybe 50, 100 pounds, and today you're asking for the entire kingdom. So he said, yes, yesterday it was based on Iman bil Ghaib, and today it's Iman bil Mushahada. What that means basically is that yesterday if you purchased it, it would have been like you're bringing faith with the unseen, just based on what you hear from a wise man. And today, you know what you're going to get, you know what it's worth, and that's why the cost of it is higher. Essentially, today, we don't understand the value of our faith. And hence, we're not willing to give much to it. Our deen of Islam is a faith that is one of the biggest things in our faith is, as Allah says in the beginning in Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, and then towards the end of that it says, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. The people who believe in the unseen. Have you guys ever seen paradise? Hellfire? Have you seen Allah? You have not seen any of this. So that is, our faith is primarily based on that. It's a big idea. Without that, there'd be nothing you could do. For example, let's give you an example. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where the Prophet ﷺ said that عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ فَإِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلَّهُ خَيْرٌ. What a wonderful state it is for the believer, any believer, as long as they're true believers. Because every state of his is a good one. Whether you're having difficulty in your life and you're going through a difficult time, whether that's with a leak in your car, God forbid, you've just lost somebody, an accident, or whatever the case is, or you're enjoying your life. You've just enjoyed a wonderful meal. You've just had a promotion at work. You've just had, mashallah, a new child. You've just got a new job, whatever the case is. Regardless of your state, the believer state is always a good one as long as they deal with it with belief. And then the Prophet ﷺ makes a very bold claim. This is, he says, for nobody but the believer. This is for nobody but the believer. Then he gives an example that if you are in good times and you make shukr and thank Allah, then that will be good for you. And if you are having bad times and you make sabr and you're patient, then that's good for you. So what does this exactly mean? Firstly, let's just take the difficult times. When you have difficult times, especially if you become helpless, just imagine that something happens and you contact somebody to help you and they can't. You contact somebody else and they can't. Generally, the human being goes to other people to get help. Well, they go to themselves. When they can't do it themselves, then they go to others. Now you've asked your uncle, you've asked your father, you've asked your friend, nobody can help you. suddenly the world starts becoming smaller and constrained. And you start feeling like, this is difficult now, nobody can help me. We should have gone to Allah first while asking others. Now the believer, the half-decent believer will go to Allah eventually. Now imagine if you had no belief in Allah. How would you even feel in that situation, the helplessness? Take another person. Imagine a guy in Syria or in Kashmir or anywhere else, right, where they're being persecuted. They can't call out to anybody. There's nobody to help them. Even other Muslims around the world or whatever it is, it's just nobody to help them because it's the way it's done. They're absolutely helpless. Just imagine the mental turmoil this person would go through. What is it that can give them any hope? If it's not for Iman, what can give them hope? There's nothing that can give you hope. Now Iman only gives you hope because you know that Allah is watching, He's in control, He is planning the best for you, and at the end of the day there is a paradise. There is a day of judgment when all of these people who've oppressed you, that you can't do anything against them because they're well connected. You go to the police, they're connected to the police. You know, maybe not in the UK as much, but in other countries, you go to the police. For example, there's a person who's just been robbed of £700,000 in India. Somebody took his £700,000, right? I said, why don't you go to the police? He says, if I go to the police, they'll put him in prison. I won't get my money yet. Then what they'll do is they'll tell him that, look, we're going to make it really difficult for you unless you pay us, because they know he's got the money somewhere. So he'll start paying them, and then I will have to start paying them to get the job done faster, and they will keep going back between myself and him and making money that way, and God knows when I'll get justice. That's the state in some countries. And you guys from Pakistan don't think it's any better there. I'm hoping it's better there, right? But that's the situation in many countries around the world. You just feel helpless. There's nothing you can do. We should make shukr that we have something like that here. You feel like you can have redress. So imagine a person like that. What else has he got to hold on to except faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That okay, fine, if I can just overcome it here, inshallah in the hereafter there will be a day of judgment. And there will be no contacts for this person to invoke on his side. He will be in trouble and I will be inshallah given a status in Jannah. Now, generally when it's a difficult time, we may remember Allah. But when it's a good time, then we forget to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because what happens is that when everything is going right, when you have money to spend, when you can get what you want, the clothing you want, the food you want to eat, then that creates, this is the nature of the world, it creates a false sense of confidence and comfort. So you don't need to think about helplessness because you think it's all happening for you. It's all working. So when everything is going right, you don't remember Allah as much. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying that for a believer, they should be remembering Allah in both states. Then the benefit of that is, imagine you've just had a wonderful meal. There's a new restaurant in town or wherever you guys go to eat, and mashallah you had a smacking, a lip smacking meal. It was really good, really tasty, well worth the price you paid for it. You've just enjoyed yourself. If you do shukr to Allah and you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the right way, that selfish indulgent act will actually make you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As long as it's not haram. That's the beauty of our faith. You enjoy yourself and you thank Allah. You enjoy yourself in a halal way, you thank Allah and you get closer to Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, this is not for anybody but a believer. Why is it not for anybody but a believer? Because only believers are going to think I'm going to get reward for something like this. Or I'm going to, this sacrifice that myself or my mother is doing for the cancer that she's suffering from. If she dies from that, she's going to be a shaheed, which means that she's got a straight way to paradise in the hereafter. Who else believes that except believers? So now the atheists are going to tell you, you're just making yourself feel good. These are just all feel good factors. That you're going to be rewarded if you do shukr. And you're going to be rewarded if you do sabr. That there's something for you. This is just to make you feel good. Some of you may have heard this. because this was basically relates to this whole idea from some socialists like Karl Marx, etc., that religion is just the opium of the masses. Essentially, the idea is that it just puts you to sleep. It basically just puts you into a state where you just go along with the status quo. So when you hear an argument like that oh, that's just a feel-good factor. Sounds like an argument, it sounds like a criticism, it sounds like a valid point. Now you have to remember, every point that is made is not necessarily a valid point, regardless of how strong people make that point. You have to keep that in mind. Because a lot of the time when people come up to us and they say something, and it sounds like a very strong point because of the confidence with which they put it forward, and you start feeling like, hey, that is a point. I never thought about it that way. That doesn't make it a correct and a valid point. A simple response to that is that, so what if it's a feel-good factor? Don't human beings need feel-good factors to basically ease themselves through this life? What's wrong with that? I will ask the atheist that your auntie who died from cancer, after suffering 10 years from it, what did she get out of it? What do you think the atheists will say when they don't believe in the hereafter? 10 years of misery, difficulty, not just for her but the people around her that cared for her. That difficulty is it's a very painful way to go. What did she get out of it? What did you get out of it? What do you think he'll say? I can say that my mother who passed away, rahimahullah, from 10 years of cancer, I'm going to say she's a shaheed. That's going to make me feel good. I believe in it, but it's going to make me feel good. It's going to let me deal with it. I know she died I know she did not die for nothing. Because in our tradition, in our sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, in our sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned up to 70 types of people who die as shaheeds without being on the battlefield. There are up to 70 types of people. That means people who die in accidents, people who die with a stomach problem, people who die in a plague, pregnancy, other illnesses, and so on and so forth. They're not shaheeds of this world, so you still have to bury them and deal with them in the same way as you would the normal death. But in the hereafter, they rise as shaheeds, as martyrs. Martyrs have a very special place. So yes, it's a feel-good factor, but alhamdulillah, I'm willing to have that feel-good factor. There's not, what's wrong with that? At least I've got a way to deal with it. That's why people with religion and community are the happiest people. This is what studies show. So all what atheists say is just a claim at the end of the day. It's just that the longest study ever done in the world, like an academic study from a university, was done by Harvard, and it's gone to about 80 years. 70 or 80 years. And they started when some of these guys were very young or from their fathers. And it's about trying to find how to gain happiness. So they've tracked people for over 70 years. And they've been having, interviews with them. They've been watching them. They've been, assessing them throughout. And they've discovered that one of the greatest things that makes you happy is to have a good social life. To be good with your family. To have a good family life. I mean, Islam has been telling us about this, that you can't break your family life. You can't, break family connections. And the one thing that you have to remember is that when it says that up to 3 days, that is for non-blood relatives. With blood relatives, you're not even allowed to break even for a moment. You know, the 3 days, that's for non-blood relatives, like a friend, a neighbor or somebody. And you know what the wisdom of the 3 days is? Have you ever experienced the difference between when you break up with somebody and you make it up straight away, and if you broke up for a week or 2 weeks and then tried to make up? Which one is more difficult? The second one. Because what happens is that if I'm your friend, right, and we break up, I've got some dependencies on you. Because we do things together, I talk to you, I speak to you, I need you, you need me. Now, after 3 days, I am going to start looking elsewhere to fill the gap. So the longer you leave it, it's much more difficult to come to reconcile. So there's a certain benefit in the 3 days that we have. my talk was supposed to be on atheism. We got young people, I don't want to confuse them more, so that's why I'm adjusting my talk. All I want to tell you is that we've got certain beliefs in Islam that seem to go against science. They're said to go against science. For example, the Mi'raj of the Prophet ﷺ. You've heard of the Mi'raj, right? When the Prophet ﷺ went up to Masjid al-Aqsa, and then from there he went up to the heavens to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he came back. Now that he went at a time where it was impossible just to go from Makkah Mukarramah to Medina Munawwara in one night. Nowadays you can do that, but in those days you couldn't even go from Makkah Mukarramah to Medina Munawwara or Medina to Makkah. But now you can. So the Mi'raj, on a winged animal, the buraq, like a winged horse or whatever you want to call it. So essentially there's a Muslim on in the media, and as he is in the middle of a meeting, somebody asked him that, oh, so you actually believe that happens? That happened? That your prophet, that you're a Muslim, so does that mean that your prophet went up to the heavens on this winged creature? Can you see the way they're asking the question to make it sound absurd? And he said, yes, I do. Which was a very bold thing to be able to say there. Because it's very difficult when people have been, essentially what's happened in this country in particular, and in many other countries in Europe, although there's some countries in Europe that are still primarily Catholic and they still have a strong religious ethos, like Slovakia, Hungary and all these places, but the Western ones, especially England, is totally, religion doesn't matter anymore. You know, hardly. You don't even have to say I'm a Christian anymore. It's not even a good thing to say that. Basically, Christianity has been pushed out. Christianity was the religion of Europe along with Judaism. Judaism went through huge persecution at the beginning of the early parts of the 19th century, right? Especially in places like France and Hungary, in Vienna, and Slovakia, and all of these countries. So they were pushed out. Now Christians haven't been pushed out, but Christianity has. That means if you go to work, you have to leave your Christianity at the door. You can't bring it inside the laboratory or the office, right? Which means that's why there's even a question about whether they can wear a cross or not. A cross can even be hidden. Hijab is a big issue, right? Because that's in your face. Right? So that's why you understand now why we have a problem, right? Why we have a problem, because it's secularism, anti-religion, that has basically driven out Christianity from all the public spaces, from the media even, except in a bad way, except to disparage it and criticize it, and the workplace and other places, and the schools, for example. So, Islam to come into there is much more difficult because we are much more overt, much more clear in our dress, in our prayer, in wanting to pray 5 times a day. Christians don't have to do that, right? As long as they pray on Sunday, they could probably get away with it, the very religious ones. That's why we're having that difficulty. The other thing that's happening in Europe is that secularism and capitalism is basically doing away with the local traditions. The British, if there was an old English tradition of some sort. That's why they can't even define Britishness anymore. We're part of Britishness, but they don't want us to be, but we're part of it. I think that can't be reversed now, in terms of the food and everything else. But the old traditions around Europe, they're all dying out because of capitalism and consumerism and everything else. So they're finding that they're losing all of this. And the big enemy that they can see in front of them is basically Islam, because we have the most outward expressions of faith. That's why one of the reasons why they hate us so much. Why it's difficult for us to assimilate in that sense. But what I want to say here is that we are living in a time when many of these miracles, as I said, the Mi'raj, when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was told by Abu Jahl, I think, that your friend, he went in one night from here all the way up to the heavens and he came back, Jerusalem up to the heavens and he came back, would you believe that? Abu Bakr said, if he says so, yes. Him believing that and us believing that, his was a much greater achievement. Today, this is not even You see, in those days, it was from the realm of impossibilities to do that. Because you could not even think of going from Medina Munawwara to Makkah Mukarramah in one night and back. So forget to the other end of, to Jerusalem and up to the heavens. That was just impossible. Today, these things are not impossible for us. So if somebody does ask you that you believe that your Prophet went up to the heavens in one night and came back, do you believe that? Yes, I do believe that. But I'm going to convince you that it's a possibility. I'm going to try to convince you. Reason is that things have changed now. People in those days haven't gone anywhere. Now they've gone beyond the earth, which was something impossible before. They've gone beyond, they've gone to the moon, unless you're one of the munkirin of there are people who believe that no, nobody went on the moon, right? A rover has gone onto Mars, right? And there are things out there in space, which was impossibility before, right? They've broken that barrier, they've gone. They've opened up the realm of possibility. They've done some other tests, some physics tests of teleportation, so on. It's not there yet, but they've shown these things that now anybody looking at the science today will say, okay, it's difficult, but it doesn't seem impossible anymore. Because we've already gone some distance now. Do you see what I'm saying? We're already going some distance. He didn't have a spacesuit on. So what? Right now we need a spacesuit to withstand the pressures of outer space. But with the way things are going, and developments in science and technology, how difficult is it for them to eventually come up with a spray that could spray some resistance on you or something else, right? Take a pill and you'll be resistant out there. Do you see what I'm saying? Because of the way science is going. Can you see how no longer, it doesn't sound so absurd anymore when you look at it from that perspective? If you look at it purely from a religious perspective, that is just a myth, an idea, then suddenly you find it difficult to argue. You provide some opening. That's all our responsibility is, by the way. If somebody asks you about Mi'raj, all you have to show to them that, look, it's possible now to get out of the confines of this earth and go to a certain degree. So why is it difficult? Why is it difficult that maybe in 100 years, 200 years, we may go beyond that? And the Prophet ﷺ has already been there and done that. Right? Another example is Umar radiallahu anh is standing in the masjid on a Jumu'ah. So this has been seen and observed and experienced by all. He's giving his khutbah among the Sahaba. And suddenly he turns, I can't remember if it's the right or left, and he starts saying, Sariya was the name of a person. Sariya, Al-Jabal, Al-Jabal. The mountain, the mountain. Like he's suddenly warning somebody that be careful, beware of the mountain, there's an enemy behind the mountain. So there's no Sariya there. Sariya was actually miles away, hundreds of miles away in a war. And Umar then started talking to him. See what I'm saying? Everybody witnessed this. Some people recorded the time that it happened, and when Sariya came back, they asked him, what happened? And he basically said that I heard his sound, I heard his voice, telling me to be careful about, because we were standing guard somewhere, and there was an enemy behind the mountain which we did not know about. Had we not heard his voice, we would have been attacked. Sounds absurd, sounds like myth, but it was witnessed by everybody. Okay, we only know that from hadith anyway, so again, but today that's a possibility. Today, 100 years ago, it has still been difficult to understand this. Today, how difficult is that? I mean, today maybe what I have to do is I have to pull out my phone. I'm giving you khutbah, and I've actually seen this. I was once in Norway, and the MC, he started the program, and suddenly it was me and Mullah Ahmed, right? We're in this auditorium. He starts introducing the program, and suddenly really gets a call, and he actually takes it. He actually, Assalamu alaikum, and we were just laughing our head off, right? Now, if suddenly I realize that somebody's going to be attacked, what I will do, if it's an emergency, I'll pull out my phone and speak to them, right? It might surprise you, but I can do it now, right? I can speak to somebody. Imagine if God forbid, there's people who've left their children in cars, and they've forgotten, and it's a hot day. Imagine somebody realizing they opened his phone in the middle of a meeting, and it sounded a bit absurd, but you can do that nowadays. Okay, I have to pull out a phone. Actually, I don't have to. I can have an earpiece. Right? Today I'll still have to have an earpiece. But tomorrow, you might just have a chip here that will allow you to take calls from people. The technology allows that kind of thing now. It's within the realm of possibilities. Does that story of Umar radiallahu now sound absurd to you? Doesn't that sound a possibility now? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has opened up so much today for us to be able to understand these things, that essentially what they did was, in another way, they are actually, Allah is showing us through them what technology may do in the future. I mean, that's one way to look at it. Right? That's why Islam has never had a problem with technology. Our only problem is technology is not the ethical one of why you're doing this, it's about how you use technology. Overindulgence on your phone and the distraction it creates, and the marriages it breaks up, and the disturbance to work, and all of that. That's what the problem is that's created by that. How come the green light hasn't come on? My time is up.
It's technology. Technology not working.
So no, my time is up. Let me go there. Huh? Where's Mullah Zahir?
He's hiding in the crowd. He's there. We have to give him maximum time, inshallah.
So basically, that's what I have to say, right? Time ho gaya, khatam, baat bhi chali gayi, right? Basically, what I'm trying to say, my message today is simple. If you want a good faith, alhamdulillah, majority, I mean, whether that's alhamdulillah or otherwise, alhamdulillah, we're all Muslims, right? But most of us here seem to be Muslims by birth. And one of the downfalls of that, one of the good things is that you got it by default. One of the downfalls is that we don't try to really understand our faith. If I ask the adults here, right, that since you were in Maktab, right, that's probably the only time that you got a more intense understanding of what our faith was. Maktab, things that you learned from our parents, and then maybe what you got through bayans. But in terms of taking a course to really understand hadith, or Quran, or tajweed even, majority of us haven't taken it. And it's available nowadays, there's no complaints. You can take them online, on site, Jamia Abu Bakr, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and all these are, do you do adult courses? You should do some, right? There are so many opportunities. If you build your faith and experience it, the person who can stand up in tahajjud at night and then do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and feel the presence of Allah, no argument is going to mess him up. No argument is going to corrupt him. Because they felt it. But if our faith is not based on experience, it's just based on do's and don'ts, somebody may mislead us. That's why I try to find Allah. And the way to find Allah is by remembering Him. And وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. The people who believe, who are mu'min, who are believers, are supposed to be the most ardent and strongest in their love for Allah. How do you gain increased love of Allah? That is more than anything else. That's the secret of success in this world and the hereafter. And the way to get that is by reciting the Quran with meaning, with reflection, and reciting it in general. Number two, by doing dhikr of Allah. Because if Allah is not in the heart, by us taking His name over, وَذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ. Allah says in the Quran, remember the name of your Lord. That's what we mean by remembering Allah. If you sit down, I want to remember Allah, what are you going to remember? What are you going to think of? Because Allah is beyond any description. So you can't think of Allah like that. The way to think of Allah, to remember Allah, is through His name. La ilaha illallah. Allah, Allah. Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah. Then they say that you'll go from, Allah will take you from the name to the named one. Allah will give you that experience. So every day we need to spend at least 5-10 minutes doing extra dhikr beyond our salat. Otherwise the real status of a believer eventually should be الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. That wherever they are, whatever they're doing, they should be in remembrance of Allah. Meaning the heart is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we were just in Uzbekistan, and there when you go to, what's his name? Bahauddin Naqshband rahmatullahi alayhi's mazar, there's two ideas there, his idea was to try to bring remembrance while you're doing your work. So don't make dhikr just a separate thing you do where you have to separately sit down and do dhikr. His idea was to make dhikr a reality throughout your day. So he came up with two ideas. One, he says, Dast bakar, dil bayar, which basically means your hand is on your job, but your heart is with your Lord. So you're there in a sorting office. And mashallah, we have one Maulana who's up in one of the Lancashire. He works in a sorting office, post office sorting office, and he finishes one Quran every day. He finishes a Quran every day while he's at work 6-7 hours sorting post. Right? His hand is on his work and his heart is somewhere else. It's not easy you have to do a lot of dhikr to get to that state, but that should be your ultimate. So then you will be remembering Allah whether you're standing, sitting or lying down. And the second thing he said, this concept, it's Persian, in Farsi, is khalwat dar anjuman. So you're sitting in a group of people and a lot of our majalis, a lot of our gatherings are just a waste of time sometimes, right? But there, he's connected to Allah. He's got khalwa, he's got solitude, he's with Allah, him and Allah, even though he's sitting among people. You're sitting on a bus, a train, going to work, and mashallah, you're there with Allah, wherever you are. If you get, inshallah, Allah give us that state, but when you get that kind of a state, nothing can bother you, because the strongest faith is the experiential faith. Not the one through evidences, because evidences can have other evidences, counter evidences, but the one through experience. And for the parents here, this is what we need to try to inculcate in our children, because it's more necessary than ever. The atmosphere outside, the environment outside in the schools, and you know the battles that are taking place, it's for the minds and hearts of the children now. Right? That's what it is to indoctrinate and pollute and so on. If you don't have strong faith in the heart, that is not just based on namaz padlo, but why namaz padlo? So that even when we're not around, our children pray namaz, perform prayer. How do you get that? If you don't know, ask the ulama about that. That's what the topic, that's what we should be aiming at now. We need to take it a notch higher, because the battle is a notch higher. It's a serious, there's a difficulty. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for assistance, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, and we ask Allah to give us that understanding and that closeness and that dhikr. Jazakumullah khair.
The founder and principal of As-Sufa Institute and Outreach, Sheikh Zahir Mahmood Hafidullah, was born and raised in the United Kingdom. After formal school studies, he began his journey of studying the sacred sciences at Darul Uloom, Bury, culminating with an ijazah to teach from Darul Uloom, Newcastle, South Africa. With an enthusing spirit and vision for the progress of the deen in the UK, the Sheikh returned and took on the role of the Khatib of Jamia Masjid, one of the largest in Birmingham, while studying for a BA in Islamic Theology of Birmingham University. Through the lens of concern for the community and with an understanding of their culture and needs, he founded As-Sufa Institute, which today, by the grace of Allah, caters the full-time and part-time Alamiya course, Islamic Studies diplomas, postgraduate courses, modular sciences, youth facilities, and regular weekend courses. As-Sufa Outreach, which began in 2015, was born from the aspiration to act upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in its totality, by serving each member of the community, in particular those who are the most vulnerable. Today, the outreach branch has a homeless project, food bank, mental health clinics, domestic violence counselling, legal advice help, and local and national zakat distribution. Sheikh Zahir Mahmood is an internationally renowned speaker and has travelled extensively from Barbados to Malaysia with the objective of reviving the hearts with Islamic knowledge. His development of the Islamic history series, looking at the late and recent Muslim narrative in a revolutionary depth in the English language, illustrates the latest mark of his role as a teacher, preacher and activist through his unique delivery style and candor. Without further delay, I'd like to invite the final speaker of today's conference, Sheikh Zahir Mahmood, to come forward and enlighten us with his words.
Rahman Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen. مولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Our respected brothers, elders, esteemed scholars, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. MashaAllah, the theme of the conference is to make the Ummah great again. I think I've heard that somewhere else. But I think his prospects are somewhat more realistic in the sense that we should make this really more localized with a vision, the greater vision, that how can we make actually our own local communities great. Because if you can't make our local communities great, then endeavoring to make the Ummah great is somewhat of a cop-out. You know, you often hear people say, we want to resolve the issue of Palestine. We want to now resolve the issue of Kashmir. And alhamdulillah, we should always have this vision. We are brothers in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But sometimes I find it somewhat of a cop-out that we can't resolve our local issues. And we want to resolve the issues of the Ummah. So firstly, I think it's very important that we endeavor to rectify ourselves, rectify our homes. See, Sheffield is very similar to Bradford, and that's no compliment. And Bradford is very similar to Birmingham, which is also my home city, so I'm not discriminating. And communities are made up by individuals. See, we look at the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu and we say, SubhanAllah, only if we had a state, only if we had an Islamic state. You know, somehow, you and I believe that just by us having an Islamic state, we would revive the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. Our state will be made up of you and I, my and your state. And this is why when somebody said to Ali radiallahu anhu, he said to him, he said, in the time of Umar ibn Khattab and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhuma, look what kind of time it was. Amazing time. So why is there so much fitna, Ali, in your time? So Ali radiallahu anhu said, in Abu Bakr and Umar's time, we were the advisors. In my time, I have advisors like you guys. And this was in the Khairul, Qarn, in Khairul Qurun, in the best of times. So brothers and sisters, I think we need to look closer to home. We need to look at ourselves. We need to look at our children. We need to look at our homes and see what is actually happening. Why is our communities in the state that they're in? Why is our homes in the state that they're in? See, there's a beautiful story of a man who comes from work. And he comes home and he's tired, and this little child wants to play with him, and he's come from work and he wants to have a rest. So he wants to buy some time. So what he sees a newspaper cutting. So he takes a newspaper cutting and it's got a picture, a map of the world. So he tears it up. And he says to the child, he said, listen, put the map back together and then we will play. So he thinks enough time for him to have a cup of tea, relax a little while. 5 minutes later, the child's back. And he's put the map back together. Australia's where it's meant to be, America's where it's meant to be, China's where it's meant to be, Brazil's where it's meant to be. And he's shocked. He said, wow, my son's a genius. And he said, how did you manage to do it so quickly? So the child turns the paper over. And he says, and there's a picture of a man. He said, Dad, I put the man right and the world came right itself. I put the man right and the world became right itself. So if you and I want to put the world right, we need to start from our homes. قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِكُمْ نَارًا. Allah says, save yourselves and your families from the fire. And Allah isn't talking about the fire of the dunya, He's talking about the fire of the hereafter. Now let me give you an example for those especially who have children. Imagine you're driving home, and this is an example of Allah. Imagine a person is driving home, and in the distance he sees smoke. So he sees this smoke, and he comes closer, and the smoke is getting more dense, more thicker. And then he comes to his area, a couple of streets away, and he can still see the smoke, and the smoke is in the close vicinity of his house. Then he comes to his road, and he can see from a distance that that smoke is actually one of the houses near his home, or possibly his home. And then he parks in front of his home, and he realizes that smoke is from his home. So he gets out of his car, runs, and he sees his wife and all his children are standing on the grass. And he breathes a sigh of relief. But then all of a sudden, his eye goes to one of the top rooms. And he realizes all his children are out bar one. Bar one. Only one child has not made it out. What does his father say? He sees a blazing home, he sees his other children. What does his father say? Does he shout out to his child on the top window, Beta, oh my son, Wallahi, I would come to save you. But you know, look at these other children. I've got to look after your brothers and sisters and your mother. And it's just for this reason that I will not risk my life, because who's going to look after these other children? Does any father ever say that when he sees his child in a burning home? No, he will give his life. He will give his life. Allah is saying, save yourself and your children from the fire. And Maulana alluded to it just now. You know, the challenges we have are unparalleled, wallahi. Until now, the challenges we had have been, you know, they're attacking this country, the Muslim being pushed to fifth columners, but now it's ideological. Now it's the fight for the iman of the children. And I want to ask you a question. And you think about this, because sometimes we live in a bubble. We are approximately 4 to 5% at best in this country. How is it those people regarding what Allah says, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ, that you are the best of people taken out for the benefit of who? For the Arabs? For the Muslims? No, Allah says, أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ, for the benefit of humanity. How is it that those people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took out for the benefit of humanity, we're 4% and we're 12% in prisons? We're 4% but 12% in prison. How is it? How is it people whose first revelation was Iqra, read, who achieved the lowest bar 1 or 2 communities in the entirety of the UK? Think about it. Your first revelation was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Your first revelation was read. Who was it revealed to? A man who couldn't read or write, who was unlettered, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So your first revelation was Iqra, but when it comes to achievements, you're the lowest. Bengalis, Pakistanis, Somalians. And then we'll walk around, and in our communities, this is the unfortunate reality. They'll walk around and they'll emulate who? They'll emulate drug dealers. They'll emulate macho men. But when it comes to academic achievement, they're the lowest in the communities. When it comes to prisons, you're 12%. Now, how did this happen? Question arises. How did this happen? Simple. Everybody, listen to me. Everybody's failed. The parents have failed, and I'll make a slight excuse for the parents because the first generation could not speak the language. This environment wasn't the norm for them. It was alien to them. But the parents failed. The schools failed. The madrasas failed. Everybody failed. And you're thinking, oh, how did the madrasas fail? The madrasas failed. You look at your communities. You have 2 hours every single day with that child. And you can't make him a decent human being. 2 hours a day. For how many years? 5 years, 6 years. And that guy knows nothing about his social responsibilities. You make him learn 40 du'as, you got to tick off 40 du'as. Have you ever assessed that child has ever read 1 du'a before it's eaten? Have you ever asked, do you give salam when you walk in the house? Do you pick up the dishes for your mother? Do you ever wash your mother for your mother? Never. But you taught him the 40 du'as. He comes to class and look, I'm not talking about any madrasa, but this is often the case. The child comes to madrasa, the teacher's late. The teacher who's teaching him deen is late. And then when he comes to class, the teacher's on the phone. And he's thinking, and we went through this and things are alhamdulillah far better. I remember that 5 to 7 were the longest 2 hours ever in my life. And if the Maulvi Sahib had a bad day, you had it. Some of us already still have the physical scars. If not the physical, we have the psychological scars. So in 5 to 6 years, you have never been able to teach that guy, that child, his social responsibilities. Oh, his tajweed, mashallah, tajweed, very good. Like if he's going to be the Imam of the Kaaba. Now I'm not saying you don't teach him tajweed. I'm not saying you don't teach him the du'as. But at the end of the day, what brings him back to the deen, as what Maulana was saying, is the experience of the deen. The love for the deen. What did his deen teach him? Respect for his parents. Respect for his community. You go into the Muslim community, or vast majority of the Muslim areas, inner city areas, compare them with non-Muslim areas. Non-Muslim inner city areas compared to Muslim areas. You compare the two. Generally their front gardens are far nicer, their streets are far cleaner, and then we'll turn around and say, yeah, ye log gande hote hain, ye stinja nahi karte. That's the only line you can remember. Ye stinja nahi karte. What the Prophet ﷺ said, I went into Jannah, and when I went into Jannah, I saw a man. He was enjoying the pleasures of Jannah. You know why Allah granted him Jannah? Because he removed a branch out of the way. And Allah granted him Jannah because he cared about his community. He didn't throw that branch. Just because it don't harm anybody, he removed that branch out of the way. You go into Muslim areas, sofas, fridges, mattresses at the corner of the street. As long as it's not in front of your home and my home, we don't give a damn. Isn't this deen? For years you read Fadail Amal that the Sahabi, he gave something to his neighbor, goat head to neighbor, and he gave it to the next neighbor, and he gave it to the next neighbor, and they went 10 homes. And it came back to the first person. What was this? This was a community. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ created a community. Now let me tell you this. This is my analysis, I may be wrong. Honestly, Muslims have no concept of community. Muslims have no concept of community. Us Muslims here, we have family structures, yes, and we thank Allah, we have family structures. We respect our parents generally. We respect our aunties, we know our aunties, we know our grandparents, we visit them. But family structure is different to community structure. Community structure is when you care about the community, all those who live in that community. The problem is we get confused between, and again, we look at our qualities and we dismiss everybody else. We say, yaar, ye log, yeah, they come to visit their parents every Christmas. They don't really care about their parents. Yeah, tayyib, alhamdulillah, we don't do that. But you look at your communities. Do you have communities? You know, 17 years ago, approximately 17 years ago, I moved from a predominantly Muslim area. In those days, I wasn't, you know, Sheikh Zahir Mahmood. I was just your local Maulvi. I lived in that area, honestly, for 4 years. I had no neighbor knocking on my door, saying, how are you? Do you need anything? Why? Because he had his chacha across the road, he had his mama across the road. Who was me? I moved into this area 17 years ago, predominantly non-Muslim area. My wife wears a niqab. Soon as we moved into the area, our neighbors sent us postcards welcoming us. Until today, wallahi, the non-Muslim area, now, 17, and I don't say this with any love or with any happiness. 17 years later, Muslims have moved into the area, everybody in that area said the area has become run down. Why? What is the reason for this? Don't we have the Prophet ﷺ talking about cleanliness? Are we the very people who brought the concept of gardens into Europe? Valencia was known in Islamic Spain as the garden of Europe. Europe had no concept of gardens. And when we move into an area, everybody else wants to move out. Till today, my non-Muslim areas, I have a Sikh who lives 4 doors up the road. Every Thursday night, from his house to the bottom of the road, he cleans the road. He cleans the road. He says, it's my obligation. My non-Muslim across the road, always looking out. Wallahi, I'm telling you, wallahi, the first time I ever saw drug dealing taking place in my street was a Muslim who moved to the street. Why? Because we have no concept of community. You have no, as long as it does not fall in your lap, you don't give a damn. So you see somebody smoking spliff up the road, you don't care. You ain't smoking it. Ain't your child smoking it. It's not your baby. The police should deal with it, the council should deal with it. Then next what you have people dealing with it. It ain't your baby. What are you worried about? You don't care. It's him dealing. The council deals with it. The police deal with it. His parents should deal with it. And then the day comes that your son becomes a crackhead, or your son becomes a drug dealer. And then you come home crying. Today it's your baby. You didn't ever give a damn. You know, they have this concept called the broken glass theory. You know what the broken glass theory is? When you see a broken glass in a building, you walk past, you don't care. Then somebody else comes and they vandalize it more and more and more until it totally gets vandalized. But because you didn't care in the first place, and it got worse and worse. And that's our communities. You have drug dealers walking around the street driving their 70,000 pound cars, and generally, listen, generally, the community does nothing. Does nothing. And this is why, if you want to make the Ummah great again, start here. Start in your communities. Make sure your front gardens are clean. Make sure your back gardens are clean. Make sure there's no mattresses in your front gardens or on your streets. Make sure you are exemplary. I was just driving, wallah, just now. We were driving here, and there's a car, a Golf, in the middle of the street. 4 guys standing on the pavement, and it's got, and we're looking at him. So one of the guys says, "Oh, Maulana, it's like Birmingham here. Asian guys in the middle of the street." See, these little things are the most important things. Little things make a character. Let me ask you, how many of you, unless you work for a charity, work for some global issue all year round? Put your hands up. Every single day of your life. Every single day of the year. How many? None? Okay, 300 days of the year. None? 150. 100. For Palestine, for Kashmir, for Africa, something global. None? Okay, let's come down to 21 days a year. How many guys 21 years a day? A week a year. So what do you do for the entire year? You may talk about Palestine, you talk about Kashmir, you talk about poverty in Africa, but what do you do during the year, the rest of the year? Work within your communities here. The first revelation, listen, the first revelation. What was the first revelation? The Prophet ﷺ was in the cave, and Jibreel came down and he revealed, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." Read. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention read? In the name of your Lord who created. Why? Allah didn't reveal pray your salah, fast, give zakat. Allah didn't reveal stop burying your daughters alive, stop killing each other on minor issues. Allah revealed nothing of the sort. The first revelation Allah revealed was read in the name of your Lord. You know why? Because if you have sound knowledge, you will eradicate all the sicknesses in your community. The root of eradicating any unsound thing in your community is sound knowledge. And this is why Allah says, read in the name of your Lord, meaning anything which is read in the name of your Lord becomes religious. So therefore we need now to instill in our children, whatever we teach them, even if they are schools, whatever they do is connected to Allah. So the tarbiyah of the children now starts with us. Starts with us, starts from the home. Give time to your children. You know, we have now, mashallah, we have these things here. Yeah? Dinner time, nobody sits together. Children are upstairs, they're on their mobile phones, they're on their laptops. And then we say there's no barakah in our homes. There's a group of people who came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they said, "Oh Messenger of Allah, we eat but we don't get full, we don't get satiated." The Messenger of Allah said, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَفْتَرِقُونَ. Maybe when you eat, you don't eat together. Look at this, subhanallah. Today, one's on his phone upstairs, one's in the front room, one's in the bathroom, wherever. And they're playing on their phones. Dinner time, come downstairs. Oh, we're coming. We're coming in a while, we're on our phones. The Messenger of Allah said to them, listen, maybe you have no barakah in your food because you don't eat together. And then he said, فَاجْتَمِعُوا عَلَىٰ طَعَامِكُمْ. He said, eat together. Read the name of Allah and Allah will put barakah in your food. Child comes home, mom's on the phone. You know, now you have the, mashallah, the hijabs and then you stick them in here, stick the phone here, and the child comes up, Assalamu alaikum, mummy. So happy to see his mummy, and mummy is talking to somebody she don't really need to speak to, somebody in Bangladesh, somebody in Somalia, and she said, can't you see I'm talking to somebody? Child comes to the father. Listen, and these are very serious issues. Child comes to the father and says, Dad, I want to go to the park. He said, where you want to go park for? Dad, I want to go play football. Who are you going with? Dad, I'm going with Ali. Alright, be back in half an hour. Not once, listen, not once did you look at your child. And then tomorrow, you'll turn around and say, these children have no respect. And you'll tell your child, when I talk to you, look at me when I'm talking to you. You're the one who told the child. You're the one who taught the child. Why? Because you were too busy talking to people that you didn't need to speak to. Your wife's sitting upstairs, and this is reality. How many a fitna, how many adultery takes place because of this? Your wife's sitting upstairs, and you're talking to somebody in Switzerland, Anna in Switzerland. Why are you talking to your wife? Well, your wife is boring, man. I've been speaking to her the last 15 years. Needs something taza. Needs something fresh. There was a time when you would know where your child went. You knew where your child went. Went to play football, you knew. Today your child is in your home. And the child walks downstairs and wallahi, me and you don't know where that child's been. Because that child's got this. That child in Australia. That child is speaking to a child molester without knowing. That child is speaking to somebody who will be detrimental to their iman. That child has just watched a video on hijab which has convinced her that hijab is not fard anymore. That child has just spoken to and read an article on atheism which has convinced her or him that God doesn't exist. Why? Because you had no time for your child. You and I had no time for our child. We gave the child this without actually ever monitoring it. This, wallahi, this is the biggest challenge that we have. The biggest challenge. People like Steve Jobs and those who make these things said, I would never give this to my child until the age of 16. My wife was telling me a few weeks ago, one of the children came to Maktab and the child said, oh, Appa, it was my birthday yesterday. He said, oh, mashallah. So my 7-year-old child, my parents gave me a mobile phone. At the age of 7, you gave your child a mobile phone. Why? Why did you give your child a mobile phone at the age of 7? Why? You know why? Because firstly, you never looked into tarbiyah of the children. How to ever do tarbiyah of the children? You do it as you go along. You buy your child a night trainers, night top, Timberland top, whatever they want, £150 top, and society tells you, you're a good parent, because that's what all the adverts say. And you buy for that child, but you don't have time to spend with that child. You don't have time to spend with that child. So you buy the child a PS. For those who are parents, let me ask you a question. Has your child ever said to you, Dad, do you remember when you bought me those night trainers? Dad, do you remember when you bought me that PS? My children have never said that to me. First, I don't buy them, that's why, but anyway. You know what children remember? Children remember memories. It's established that children remember the memories, the time that you spent with them. My children, when we're sitting down, would often say, oh, Dad, do you remember when we went Umrah? Dad, do you remember when we were in Morocco, when we were in Spain? Dad, do you remember when you were teaching us to ride a bike? That's what children remember. But we have a cop-out, wallahi, too many of us have a cop-out. Too many of us don't want to spend enough time with our children. We want to spend time with our devices. We want to work and work and work. And then your child is 16, 17, 18, and they're out of our control. And listen, let me make this quite clear here. There are certain people who spend their entire life doing the tarbiyah of their children, but their children are just rotters. Nabi's had children who didn't take iman. I know a lady who has 3 children, and every day she comes from another town, and she would bring her child, 3 children, every single day to Dar Alooms in Birmingham. So she would drive at rush hour every day, taking 2 hours to get here, 2 hours to get back. One of her children, who was studying, becoming an alim, did about 2 or 3 years, has become a drug dealer. And I look at this woman's sacrifice, and wallahi, I know no other woman who made as much sacrifice as this woman. So sometimes it's out of your hands. Hidayat is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But generally, if you will put the effort in, you will get the results. So now, brothers, listen. We need to do some practical things with our children. Yeah? The first thing is that you need to spend serious time with them. Serious quality time with them. Okay? Now, if you've never done that, now you need to change. Cut your work. If it's your working hours, cut your working hours. Your responsibility is your children. This is your future. This is what, when you will go in your grave, Imam Shafi rahimahullah said, many people who are placed in the grave, but their evil lives on. You know what is the greatest evil that a person can leave behind him is his children. He never did tarbiyah of his children. Never taught them what was right and wrong. So what happens is we end up becoming people who don't pray. Because they never saw their father praying. Never saw their mother praying. Never saw it. But you are always involved or concerned about their dunya. Allah doesn't care about your dunya. Allah is the one who gives you the dunya. You know, many people I've seen who are the biggest faqirs that I've ever seen are people who are very, very rich. Wallahi. Faqirs. These people are faqirs. You know why they're faqirs? Paupers. Because they're like junkies. They want the next fix. They want the next million. They want the next 100,000. They're never ever satisfied. These are the biggest paupers and the biggest faqirs. And what happens as a consequence? You have no time for Allah. You have no time for your children. You have no time for your wife. You have no time for your parents. You are a faqir. You may have millions, but you are still a faqir. And this is why, listen, be content with what you have. You know, you see all these videos nowadays, isn't it? They say, oh, happiness. Happiness. Do this and you will be happy. Happiness. Listen. Happiness is a mood. You can't always be happy. Like you can't always be sad, you can't always be happy. But one thing you can always be is content. See, you have these people who become the most famous of people, but they still die because of a drug addict. They still die of depression, anxiety. Many people would like to be in their shoes. You know why? Why? Because they don't have contentment. So be content with what Allah has given you and invest in your akhirah. And the greatest investment that you can make in your akhirah is your children. Spend time with your children. Don't cop out. You know, many children spend more time on their computers than their parents. You know what that is? This is a yatim. Your child is a yatim, and this is the father. Your TV set is, we should once upon a time say, the TV set is the father. Your child is a yatim. Imam Shawki says, Inna al-yatim huwa alladhi tara lahu umman takhallat aw aban mashghul. So yatim is not necessarily the person whose dad is dead. No, yatim is that person whose mother has forsaken her duty to the child. Or aban mashghul, or the father is too busy. The father's too busy to care for the child. So now what you do is you spend time with your child. And what kind of time? Listen, I want to ask you a question for parents. You know when you come home, how do your family feel? So when they hear your car park up, you put the key in the door, how does your children feel? Oh yeah, he's back. Oh, they're sitting nicely with their mother, you know, talking, and then and the key goes in the thing. Because you know we in the Indian subcontinent have this mentality, the Bakara code. You understand the Bakara code? You know, keep them locked down. It comes from back Indian subcontinent, in the village or wherever you come from. You know, it's like the mother-in-law says, keep her locked down. Husband says, yeah. Keep the children locked down, keep the daughter locked down, and then any person who works for you, keep the Bakara. So we bring exactly the same mentality over here. You know, keep them locked down. So you put the key in the door, and soon as they hear dad's home, everybody runs their own way. Or do when you get home, your children run towards you. When you come home, your children are happy that our father is at home. They see the love and the affection. Because if they run away from you, there's something wrong. Because if you look into the life of the Prophet ﷺ, everybody ran towards him. Everybody loved the affection. The Messenger of Allah said, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. So the best of you is he who is the best to his family. And I am the best to my family. Out of all his wives, nobody ever complained. You come home, you want to keep the business locked down, you want to keep the children locked down. In the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was kissing a child. So he's kissing a child, and there's a Bedouin sitting there, and they weren't used to kissing a child. I remember once when I was kissing my daughter when she was young. She was a baby, and I kissed her, and somebody from our family, from the elder said, you don't kiss your daughters. Yeah, she said, you don't kiss daughters. So the Messenger of Allah is kissing one of his grandchildren, and there's a Bedouin sitting there, and he's saying, oh Messenger of Allah, you kiss children? He said, yes. He said, don't you kiss children? He said, no, me. Me? He said, I got 10. Thus. They don't make them like they used to. The Nissan Sunny, that engine was something else. He said, don't you kiss children? He said, I have 10, I have never kissed a child. The Messenger of Allah said, Awa amliku lak. Awa amliku lak. Wa qad naza Allahu rahmatan min qalbik. He said, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything in this deen when Allah has removed rahmah from your heart? He wasn't beating the child. Although some need a couple of beats, but anyway, that's against the law, yeah? He wasn't beating the child. What was he doing? Just not kissing the child. You all know Umar ibn Khattab, yeah? And I'm telling you why. Because see, sometimes you see that sometimes the most rebellious of children and those who are the furthest away from the deen are the children of those people who are actually very religious. Because it's a reaction of the harshness that they've always seen. Yeses and nos and harams and your disposition is so hard that they rebel. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to know anything about the deen. So Umar, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar, the man who, when he stood with a group of people, you know, you would know it's Umar, he's taller than anybody. They said when Umar struck you, you would know. When Umar spoke, you would hear. Umar is Amir al-Mu'mineen. One of his governors walked in and Umar was kissing a child. And the governor said, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, you kiss children? He said, yes. He said, don't you kiss children? He said, not me. He said, when I walk into my house, it's locked down. Nothing moves, even the fish stop swimming. That's my own addition, There's no fish in Mecca. Just to keep your attention. He said, not me. He said, when I walk in the house, nobody moves, locked down. Umar radiallahu anhu removed him as the governor. He said, anybody who's harsh upon this, or harsh upon their family, has no right to have authority in this ummah. Well, brothers, I honestly, and you know why often children suffer, and let me go on to this as well. You know why children often suffer unfairly? Because you can't get on with your wife, and you can't get on with your husband. Why do you think so many children we have standing on street corners, hanging out with the boys? They find solace, they find peace with the boys and not at home. Why? Because they find no sukoon at home. All they see is husband and wife loggerheads. All they've seen all their life is that dad can't treat mum well, and mum can't treat dad well, and mother-in-law, grandma can't treat his mum well. That's all they've seen all their life. So instead of staying at home in the company of those people who are meant to be their security, they don't find any security. So they stand on street corners, hang around with the boys. And children, listen, children can't express what they feel. They show it, they rebel. They show it in their actions. So if you really love your children, work on getting on with your partners. Work on getting on with your partners. Get on with your partners. You know why? Because you live with that person 24/7. If you are doing zulm, listen to this very carefully. If you are doing zulm on your partners, or on your children, or on your parents, whatever, you are getting sinful 24/7. You want to tell me this? Shall I tell you the severity of this? Shall I tell you the severity of this? A group of Sahaba came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they said, "O Messenger of Allah, there's a woman tusumu wa tusalli. She prays and she fasts. So she prays and she fasts, but she's got a problem. Tu'dhi jaraha. She inconveniences her neighbor. She's not good to her neighbor." The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said regarding this woman who prayed and she fasted, but she inconvenienced her neighbor, hiya finnar. She will be in the fire of Jahannam, although she prayed and fasted. And I looked in this narration to find out if the neighbor was Muslim or non-Muslim. There's no mention. Now, the ulama write something really interesting under this narration. They say, if this is the consequence of a person inconveniencing their neighbor and they pray and they fast, and Allah will throw him in the fire of Jahannam, and what about that person who inconveniences, hurts and harms their husband or their wife, or their children or their parents? These are not light issues, brothers. You want to make the ummah again? You want to make the ummah great? Make your homes great. Get on with your children. Show love and affection to your children. When you need to be harsh, be harsh. But generally the disposition should be love and affection. The child should know who the parent is. The parent should know the parent should know who the child is. Nowadays nobody knows who the parent is and the child is. The child behaves like they're the parent, and the parent believes that he needs, be the best friend. He needs to be the best friend. I am not really interested in football, watching football anymore. Both of my sons, one's 13 and one's 9, they're Chelsea fans. They're big Chelsea fans. And often they start talking to me about Chelsea. In all honesty, I'm not interested. The only football guys I like is Mo Salah and Mane. And that's because one cleans the toilet, and one Masha reads Quran on the air. But I'm not really interested. But I listen to them. You know why I listen to them? Because I want to relate to them to a degree, because I'd rather they speak to me than speak to somebody else. Rather they speak to me than they speak to somebody else. But at the end of the day, your children should know who the parent is, who the father is, and the child. You don't need to be your child's best friend. Allah didn't make you to be your child's best friend, He made you to be their parents. But a parent who is loving, affection, who the children can turn to. And let me come on to the children now. I think my time is close to being up with the green line. Children. And I was thinking about this the other day. You know, children. Children are one of the most selfish people there is. Generally. Honestly. Look at you. Yeah, look at you. I was there once upon a time. We're all like that. Children are selfish. You know, they hit 60. You know, Habib, yesterday somebody sent me that clip where they asked him, what do you advise to your children? And he said, respect your parents. Respect your parents. When you're, it's very interesting, 15, 16 and 17 years old, you think you're the best thing since sliced bread. You think you know it all. So you look at big cars and you say, I want that big car, irrespective of what it takes you. So what do? Your parents advise you. You forget everything. Listen. You forget everything that your parents did for you. When you came in this world and you couldn't clean your backside and every time you needed something you cried. You forget that. Because see, that part of your life Allah wiped out. And it's very interesting. Why does Allah wipe out that part of your life when you are the most dependent? Because wallahi, if you and I could remember what our mothers and parents did for us at that time, we would never disobey our parents. So you forget that time. So your parents have this aspiration for that child. They break their backs. Your dad works those 8 hours, those 9 hours, those 12 hours. Everything your mum does from morning to night, her life rotates, man. And you hit 16 and 17 and you want to become a drug dealer. You want to disobey your parents. You want to do what you want. You want to go and womanize. You want to go to nightclub. You know why? Listen. Why? Because at school, you know when you have your first drag, first smoke, the boys say, come on, have one. Come on. You're chicken. Chick. Yeah, you got no bottle. You're a chicken. Wallahi, let me listen to you. Listen. If you listen to your friends and you have that first drag, you're the bloody chicken. You're the chicken. You know why? Because you didn't have the courage or the bottle to say, no, I don't want it. You're the chicken. See, you know, sheep walk in flocks, tigers walk alone. You're the sheep. You know when somebody gives you a spliff and they say, come on, you ain't got no ball, go on. What, a chicken? And you're thinking, oh, what the boy's gonna say, I'm a chicken. And then you take that spliff and you smoke it. You are the chicken. You had no shame that 15, 16, 19 years that your mum and dad broke their back over, that for one few statements, you spoiled your own future, but not only that, you didn't give a damn about what your parents did for you. And then you walk around like you're the man. You ain't no man. You're a parasite. You sell drugs on the streets, breaking up other families' homes, and then you drive your big cars, and just because some idiots will look up to you, you know, you're a parasite. And listen, like that first bath when you came into this dunya, somebody else gave it to you. No matter what a bad boy you think you are, your last bath somebody else will give to you. Your last bath, and you will go into your grave 6 by 6, and you won't take anything. You won't take your rep with you. You won't take your bank balance with you. It will be only your coffin. And by Allah, your coffin won't have pockets. Your coffin won't have pockets. So listen, youngsters. Listen. Obey your parents. You might think you know it all now. You don't know anything. You might think you know everything, you don't know anything. So the next time your friends tell you you're a chicken, yeah, be the man. Don't do it. Because people have invested too much. You know, wallah, I see so much. You know, children were meant to be the coolness of parents are the eyes. You know, Allah, the dua, رَبَّنَا حَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Oh Allah, grant us from our spouses, our partners, our wives and our husbands and our offspring, that which is the coolness of our eyes. Allah, in this country, you see so many children who are not the coolness of their parents' eyes, they're a source of their eyes not being able to sleep at night. Not being able to sleep at night. So we need a serious change within our communities. Listen, this is my advice. Yeah, this is my advice. And my maktab we run is exactly the same as most of them. So, you know, I have no room to kind of speak. But you know, the truth is we have our children for 2 hours a day. There's an amazing amount that you can do with the tarbiyah of your children in 2 hours a day. We are unique. That we are the only people who have this liberty of having our children 2 hours a day for many years. Then why is it that our children end up becoming drug dealers? Our children underachieve. Our children don't become good human beings. In those 2 hours, you know, we should be able to inculcate in our children their social responsibilities, their responsibility, their community. So, maktab-wise, we need to reassess. As parents, we need to realign our priorities. The day when you go home, put your phones away. Put your phones away. Make your children put their phones away and spend time with your children. Speak to your children. Invest time. Those hours elapse very quickly. Don't be too worried about buying your children expensive stuff. But listen, take them on holidays. Take them for Umrah. Make sure that you are well involved in their studies and their Islamic studies, their religious studies. You know, often we will pay how much? £25 an hour for the tuition of our children. And how much you charge you? And I don't tell me. No, go on, tell me. £25 a month. How many hours a day? 1.5 hours a day, 25. I don't even want to do the maths. I can't even, you know. Imagine all those hours. You know, sometimes, in all honesty, you know, when we make things cheap, people think we're cheap. We make it cheap so everybody can come, but sometimes people have this mentality, well, yeah, because they only charge £25 a month for Islamic studies, 1.5 hours, 5 days a week. Look at tuition, £25 for 2 hours. That's the real McCoy. You know, that's the real McCoy, and that's what we attach importance to. Listen, get involved in your child's madrasa studies. I want to ask you don't have to answer, how many of you ever listen to your child's sabak when they come home? Some parents never, ever, not once have they ever said, Putter, Betty, what have you learned today in masjid? So the child thinking, well, my dad don't care, but he's asked me about my GCSEs, he's asked me about tuition, he's asked me how, he checks my papers every day. Listen, you make your child a professor, you make your child a multi-billionaire, but you deprive him of the deen, you've done that child the roti. I want to finish, because this green light ain't going on. Yeah? Very green light on hogi, yeah? And this one ain't gone on. What was technology problems or what?
The red one's on.
Huh? Is the red one on? Where? Oh, you khatarnak janai. I want to finish on a story, which is such an amazing story, which Sheikh Hasaan rahmatullah alayhi mentions about a group of very educated youngsters. And remember this story. He speaks about a group of very educated youngsters who go fishing. And whilst they're going fishing, they meet this old man who was a fisherman, and they want to have a laugh and a joke with this fisherman. And they say to this fisherman, they say, "Oh uncle, what do you know about geography?" Uncle said, "Geography, all I know is from my house to my boat and to here. That's all I know." He said, "You don't know where Didyal is?" He said, "I don't even know where Didyal is." He said, "Oh uncle, what do you know about algebra?" He said, "Algebra? Never heard of it." "Uncle, Engrezi?" He goes, "Oh, Engrezi I know. I go, you go, Glasgow." "Yo, Engrezi I know." So one who was a bit more cheekier than the other said, "Oh uncle, indeed you have wasted a great portion of your life." Goes on. Uncle very offended by their statement. Later on they struck by a storm. So now the uncle goes past these youngsters and they're huddled up in their boat. And the waves are crashing against their boat. And uncle says, "Sons, let me ask you a question. So what do you know about swimming?" So the boys say, "Uncle, none of us can swim." So uncle says, "I may have wasted a great portion of my life, but you have wasted your entire life. Because here, the only things which count is can you swim or can you not swim. In the court of Allah, the only thing which counts is how you believed in Allah and what you did with that belief in Allah in this dunya. Your bank balance doesn't come out, your degrees, your accolades don't come into the scenario, into any reckoning. So therefore, brothers and sisters, let's realign, let's care about our communities, let's care about our children. Start with your homes, work within your communities. The only people, Allah said, "Innamal mu'minuna ikhwa." Yeah, the believers are like brothers and sisters. So don't just care about your cousins and your chachi and your uncles and your aunties. Work within your communities, because if you have a rotten community, sooner or later, that will permeate your home. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who live and die for His sake. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to retrieve the greatness that this ummah once had. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the people of Sheffield the ability to excel, give you harmony, give you peace, give you tranquility. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward Hafiz Shafiq Sahab for his endeavors. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us united in dunya and reunited Jannah for those. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah Hasaan, Jazakallah.
Oh, I'm happy here. It was a community.
We took a lot of your time today. Well, Sheikh took a lot of your time today. Jazakallah for your attendance, and Jazakallah for our Sheikh Mahmood and all our great sheikhs who attend today. One announcement: there's a program tomorrow in Rotherham, Miss Chapel Walk Mosque after Maghrib, inshallah, if you could attend, inshallah. Food will be served upstairs straight after the dua, inshallah. I'll invite Mufti Sahab, Rahman Sahab, to come and conclude the program with the duas, inshallah.
اللهم السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. يا معدن الجود والكرم، يا أرحم الراحمين، يا خير المسؤولين، يا خير المعطين. Ya Allah, we ask you for your special mercy on this group. Oh Allah, we ask for your special attention. Oh Allah, we ask you for your forgiveness. Oh Allah, forgive us all of our misdeeds, all of our weaknesses. Oh Allah, all of our defects. Oh Allah, all the problems that we've had so far, all of our inattentiveness. Oh Allah, we ask that you forgive those sins we've committed in daylight and those at night. Oh Allah, those that we remember, those that we have forgotten. Oh Allah, especially those that have now become part of our life and we no longer even consider them sins anymore. Oh Allah, we ask that you forgive us for not thinking about beyond our selfish selves. Oh Allah, we ask that you give special mercy, special generosity for this, for those who are here, for those who are listening, and for our entire ummah. Oh Allah, we ask that you allow us to live up to the great ideals that our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam dictated to us. Oh Allah, what all of these great ulama said, oh Allah, we ask that you allow us to live up to the roles that they have described for us.
O Allah, and that you forgive all of our shortcomings in this regard until now. O Allah, make this a point of change. O Allah, make this a point of transformation. O Allah, allow our tomorrow to be better than our yesterday. O Allah, make the rest of our life be better than the previous part of our life. O Allah, do not ever let us see a bad day with our children. O Allah, do not allow them to grab our necks on the day of judgment and say that we did not do enough for them. O Allah, allow us to fulfill this greatest of responsibilities. O Allah, we also remember our Muslim brethren around the world. O Allah, we ask that you remove them from their subjugation, their oppression, their problems, the oppression that they're feeling. O Allah, we ask you by the name of that child who just a few weeks ago was before Eid prayer, before Eid day, he was speaking to some of his friends and they were saying what they would be getting for Eid. And he went home to ask his mother what he would be receiving for Eid. And his mother said, "Oh my child, your father who used to bring you Eid presents is no longer with us." So we ask you by this child that you bring some respite to the Ummah, that you assist us. You assist the people of the UK, you assist the people around the world. Oh Allah, there's a huge amount of challenges that we're facing today. Oh Allah, for our faith, for our minds, for our hearts, we ask you for strength. We ask you for steadfastness. We ask you for conviction. Oh Allah, we ask you for yaqeen. Oh Allah, grant us your love and the love of those whose love benefits us in your court. Oh Allah, make our surroundings, our children's surroundings conducive for the practice of their faith. Oh Allah, grant us love for your faith and love for everything related to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Grant us a life full of purity and taqwa and the sunnah, a love for the sunnah. Oh Allah, bless all of those who are trying their hardest to help Islam in these communities, this organization, the other organizations. Oh Allah, grant us unity among us. Grant us understanding between us. Grant us an understanding to work for the entire Ummah, for our families, for our communities, and for the entire Ummah. And bless those that have passed away and who've established these places for us. Allow us to rise to the challenges for the future. Oh Allah, make the best moments of our best days of our life, our final days in this world. And the best moment of our life, the day that we stand in front of you. Oh Allah, we ask that you send your abundant blessings on our Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and that you grant us his company in the hereafter. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.